This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Athletics.
Swung on, drive to left field. Did he do it? He did! 4 home runs for Nick Kurtz! He is 6 for 6!
Swing and a drive, deep to left. The A's take the lead in grand fashion.
And 29 other MLB clubs.
Stretch of the pitch to Cal. Swing and a drive, deep to right field. There it is, number 60, the modern-day Bambino.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe from humidors to walk-off dingers.
That's swung at a high, deep drive to right. Smith is back. He will not even watch it. And the A's win it on a walk-off by Nick Kurtz.
We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
We are going to start out with a bang this morning. Alden González from ESPN is going to join us. David Forst, the GM, has just walked by, so we're going to try and see if we can get anything from David Forst. Quickly, go over everybody else who we're going to have today to prepare everybody, Cody.
We're going to have Dan Otero right after Alden. We're
now working for Major League Baseball.
Paul Hembekides of ESPN. He'll be over video, but he'll be here at 10:40.
Look at us promoting ESPN this morning.
Sorry, to be 7:40 Pacific.
All right.
We'll have Kevin Acee from the Padres and what's the newspaper?
San Diego Union Tribune. I've been telling you the Padres have been a house of cards for years. He's going to tell us all about how they've been spending money they don't have.
He'll be here at 11. We'll have Mark Kotsay, the manager of the A's, at 11:30, and then we'll end the show with our interview with two-time AL Manager of the Year, Stephen Vogt. Well, first off, how you doing this morning as you're taking a drink of coffee? My apologies. How are you? It's been a while.
Doing great. Hoping to get some action today,
Yeah, the one thing that the hot name Ketel Marte is out there, and obviously the Athletics are in business for a second baseman unless they're going to go with the options that are inside. We've looked at Brendan Donovan, supposedly will get moved from the Cardinals. Brandon Lau, we'll see what happens with him from Tampa. And Ozzie Albies is on a contract that's very favorable with the Braves. But Ketel Marte, reports coming out, not a happy camper in Arizona.
Yep.
Boston may be interested, but either way, you're talking about a great player. He's got 5 years left on his contract, a 6-year option. It's $102.5 million. A lot's deferred, but the big key here is in May, he's a 10-5 guy.
Yep.
Which changes everything. Is he now the big name that we could see move before we enter the afternoon?
I'm glad you brought up Ketel Marte because that's the name that I came into this winter meetings monitoring the most because, look, all eyes are going to be on Tarik Skubal, but, you mentioned that Tarik Skubal is going to be controllable for 1 year. Ketel Marte has multiple years left on a very reasonable contract, and, you make a great point. Like, the 10-5 rights kicking in, like, this has to be the offseason. And, look, I don't think the Diamondbacks – the Diamondbacks extended him earlier this year for a reason. He's supposed to be a pillar of their franchise. He's arguably the best second baseman in all of baseball. He's an incredibly dynamic player that they believe is still coming into his own. And if they don't get the package, the type of package that they like, they're not going to trade him. They're under no obligation to. They would love to keep him. And I'm sure they'll figure it out in their clubhouse. But the reality is – there's going to be a lot of teams interested. There is some urgency with the 10-5 rights. And I think overall, too, like this market, there's a lot of teams that are kind of scaling back on payroll or maybe not increasing payroll, including big market teams. And I think the trade front is going to be a lot more prevalent this offseason. There's a lot of starting pitching available via trade. And I think when you look at like dynamic position players, Ketel Marte is at the top of the list, and there's a lot of teams that have checked in. And I think that's gonna dominate the month. Ketel Marte.
Yeah, something that I wrote down for today after we've been here now for 2 days. By the way, this is the day that you see how many people have actually been partying at night because this is the third day, right? Everybody's at the bar all night long, and you start to see people start to struggle a little bit. So day 3 with the guests is always very interesting. You, my friend, fresh and ready to go.
Wow, I thought you were going to say the opposite. Thank you for saying that.
Some people look
you are lying.
Some people look weathered this morning, right? They've been out because the bar stays open late. All right, the trade market is better than free agency right now. And you're wondering now, has the sticker shock? Because for years when we'd be here, prospect capital, like these front offices love their prospects, right? They're like gold to these guys. And it was easier just to spend money in free agency and not give up your prospect capital. But now it seems like where we are with over 20 trades this offseason, that front offices are saying these free agents are too expensive. I'd rather go back into the trade market and maybe trade need for need or trade some prospect capital. That is a change, wouldn't you say, from what we've seen the last few years?
I think so. I do think though that, and I saw this recently, and it might impact the trade market about how, like, if you take a look at 2026, right? There aren't that many teams that are kind of like in that tank mode, right? Or not actively trying to win. I mean, who are they really? Like, it's the Rockies that are obviously taking a step back. It's the Twins that are kind of tearing down. Like, even a team like the A's is ascending. They're trying to find starting pitching of any kind to couple with like a very dynamic young offense. There aren't many teams that are just kind of like gonna sit out 2026, far less than we've seen in a long time. So I do wonder how the prospects sort of impact all of that. Maybe if teams have less of an appetite for prospects this offseason because so many of them are trying to win next year. I mean, even like the Pirates, right? The Pirates have been a major topic this offseason that they're suddenly trying to spend money, trying to add offense. So you're absolutely right that the trade market and the value of prospects is more prevalent in the game now than it ever has been. I do wonder, though, if maybe that doesn't show up as prominently this offseason because there's so many teams going for it, and that maybe like the prospects, especially like the lower level prospects, are not as valuable when so many teams are trying to go for. Because like the thing is, as we've seen with the expanded playoffs, just get in. Just like be in the margins, give yourself a chance in September. And after that, anything can happen. And I think that's the mindset that a lot of teams are taking into 2026.
Well, one of the good news we've had this offseason, and it pertains to you, is like we were worried that, you know, if ESPN, who is obviously the number one name in sports television, if they divorce baseball, it can't be good for either side.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we saw that, oh, yes, the deal's going to be even bigger and greater. You obviously will know more than us, but just from the standpoint of baseball and ESPN not breaking up and going into greater lengths, as we all know now, streaming and all the different things is getting bigger than ever. This was good news for the game. It was good news for ESPN.
Well, I'm a little bit biased,
Yes.
but I think it's great news for everybody.
Yeah.
Look, we're still going to have a lot of games on ESPN. Look, I grew up watching baseball on ESPN. Like, that's how I fell in love with the sport. I am of a certain generation that grew up like that. We did Baseball Tonight almost every day. I watched almost every day. I loved watching the Home Run Derby. I did the Home Run Derby for ESPN the last 3 or 4 years. I'm gonna miss that, but that's just personal. But the fact that we have games and we're gonna have prominent games in 2026 is great. I do think, just speaking more broadly, industry wide, these next 3 years are what they're gonna be. Media is going to change drastically after 2028. Major League Baseball is positioning itself to centralize media. They're going to have new national media deals with everybody after 2028. So, like, our deal, the NBC deal, the Netflix deal, Fox, TBS, Turner, like, these are all sort of like placeholders for the next 3 years. And it's good that we've defined that now, but everything's going to change after 2028. And it could go in any direction. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens on the media front.
It was the NBA deals that really, when you saw how much the NBA is going to go into streaming, and, you know, it was Amazon that was brilliant doing the deal with the NFL, putting games on Thursday nights. You know, people, wherever you put NFL, people are going to follow. And now all of a sudden they conditioned the sports world that you can watch games on Amazon Prime because you're watching NFL. And then we saw the NBA start doing these deals. That really showed me that, you know, a lot of what we've done over the years and gone with streaming as an organization, like, this is the future. Streaming is where everybody is going to be. Yeah. And as you said, once these contracts come up, streaming is such the wild, wild west. Who would ever thought we'd watch sports on Netflix? But this is where this whole thing, and now the whole deal with Netflix and Paramount, I mean, who knows where this whole thing's going?
Well, and look at just like NBC, right? Like NBC has Sundays now in baseball, but they're not all going to be linear on NBC. There's going to be games on Peacock, you know, and that's the thing though that like I do. You're absolutely right, and we're only going more towards the streaming route. And in 2028, when they sign new deals, like it's going to be even more prevalent. But you know, my concern is the fan, and I think the league has this concern to a certain extent, but it's a very real one, and that is if you are a fan of baseball today, how much money do you have to pay if you want to watch all 162 regular season games of the team that you follow, right? Their games are on so many different platforms now. It's not just, you know, they're on the local RSN and you can watch them every day. They're on Apple, they're on Peacock, they're on ESPN, they're on Roku, or they were this past season. And, you know, I understand that Major League Baseball is trying to maximize these contracts and, you know, get as much money in owners' pockets as possible. But they got to think about the fan here, too. And are they pricing out the fan? And that's a concern I think that the league needs to have because of how many subscriptions you need to have now in order to watch your favorite team.
Yeah, that's a legit conversation. It's like talking to my wife when she always wants to watch a new show. She's like, well, this one's on Paramount. Well, I'm like, we have Paramount?
You know, one day
Hulu, it's Paramount. It's
one day they're going to take all of those streaming packages and they're going to bundle it together. And what they're going to create is cable. And you see everything just comes around full circle again.
Well, yeah, if we're all on, you know, that what you hear is they want to put us all on, the majority of us, because there's some of the teams that have these cable contracts, like the Dodgers and what you're talking with the Mets and what you're looking at with the Yankees. That may not change in the Phillies with their deal with NBC, and we know that being NBC, tied to NBC ourselves. But at one point, you could have about like 25 teams all on one platform, and then hopefully, I like that idea to like if you're subscribing to that platform, I can watch any of those teams at any time. There's no blackouts. I hope we get to that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, blackouts is a huge thing. Like they're just, you know, there's so many baseball fans in the country who are just like not able to access their local teams. And I know that's been one of Major League Baseball's major motivations. And that was one of the positives when sort of teams were falling out of their local RSNs, was that when Major League Baseball would take over, blackouts were eliminated now.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's centralizing media, all 30 teams under one national umbrella. That would eliminate blackouts, and that would be huge for the sport, because one thing that the sport is super focused on, as it should be, is reach. They're not maximizing reach with these blackouts, and eliminate that, they could maximize their reach. That's going to be a huge thing.
All right, other than Ketel Marte, who are you focused on here at the meetings?
I mean, look, I think Kyle Schwarber is the name to watch, because I think that once he signs, it could sort of be a trickle-down effect where I'm not saying it's going to be this huge rush of hitters and you're going to see Cody Bellinger and Kyle Tucker and all these guys sign immediately. But I think there's a lot of sort of redundancies in terms of like teams going after certain players. I think once the Kyle Schwarber market resolves itself, that's going to ease the path now for other players. And once that eases the path for other free agents, it might ease the path for trades, different trades. Like I'm waiting on the Kyle Schwarber market to resolve itself. I don't know when it's going to happen. Could be soon, could be later. But I think that will impact everything else. The other thing that I'm watching a lot is just I think starting pitching. I think there's a lot of available starting pitching, and there's a lot of available starting pitching. A lot of available starting pitching via trade.
Yes,
and there's a lot of it in free agency as well. But I think the market for starting pitching, obviously headlined by Tarek Skubal, but there's a lot of names out there to watch. I think that's going to be a big thing too. Everybody needs starting pitching. I mean, you could have 5-6 starting pitchers that you really like. Guess what? You need more. I'm in LA. I cover the Dodgers a lot. Back-to-back years, they've used 40 pitchers.
Yeah.
40 pitchers. They've set franchise records in back-to-back years, and they are not alone. The attrition rate is tremendous. Everybody needs pitching.
All right, let's end on this. Something that we've been monitoring, right? The last couple of years, Major League Baseball keeps going over 800 pitchers used as a league. Over 800.
That's a big number.
That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
We track it every year, and a lot of people are always astonished. Like, really? I'm like, yes. We've been using the last 3 years over 800 pitchers. The average team will use 12 to 13 starters. The team that's won the World Series the last 2 years has boat raced that number every year in guys who have started. So you start thinking about it. You really got to have a stable when you go to spring training of at least 10 or more guys. Nobody has that.
No, nobody has that, and that's the thing. Like, how do you fix that, right? Like, and that's the thing that every team is spending time on. Whoever can conquer, and I don't know if anybody will fully conquer it, but whoever can figure out how to keep their pitchers healthier than other teams, like that's the next frontier, right? It used to be like analytics. The next frontier now is health. It's player health. It's pitcher health specifically. And that's what teams are focusing almost all of their time on, is because also like for owners too, like that's, you're spending money on guys who get hurt, right? Availability is the key. Whoever can conquer that is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else.
Billy Bean said if you could figure out how to prevent Tommy John, you'd be a billionaire.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Maybe you can be that guy.
I'm not smart enough. Not even close.
Is it interesting? We got Dan Otero coming up here, but is it interesting that we've been here 3 days and really no one's talking about the Dodgers? When the last 2 years, they have dominated the winter meetings. I've had so many guests. We really haven't talked about the Dodgers.
You know what? I wrote about the Dodgers recently, and I referred to them as the boogeyman of the sport, because even when they're not even talked about, like they're always lingering, and execs are always worried about like what are the Dodgers going to do. Agents are always lumping them in there with their clients because it scares other teams. The Dodgers are still capable of doing, and I often say this, they could do everything and nothing. They could do either of the two. They are able to do that. They don't have to add to their roster, but they could go out and get Tarek Skubal. They don't need to add to their offense, but they could sign Kyle Tucker if his market doesn't materialize the way that he thinks it does. They have all of the resources in free agency and via trade. They want a three-peat. They also want sustainability, and I think that's the major dilemma for them. You know, and the front office talks about it a lot. The balance of winning now versus winning later is something that they're always fighting and they can't fully figure out. And I think that's more prevalent this offseason. Their position player group is old. It's the oldest group in baseball. And they got to get younger in some way. And they have these prospects coming up that they want to give time to. But also, they want to crystallize this as the golden era of Dodger baseball. That's what Andrew Friedman tries to refer to it as all the time. They want to win a third straight championship. They could do anything. So they remain a wild card.
Yeah, and then Dave Roberts threw out the I have no problem with a salary limit and a salary floor. We'll see how that works. Hey, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. I'm so glad with the ESPN stuff, and let's do this again in the new year, maybe around spring training.
Absolutely. Sounds great.
Appreciate it. Alden González right here from ESPN. Dan Otero is going to join us now from Major League Baseball. You know Dan?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, Dan, former Athletic, now with Major League Baseball. Thank you very much. Right. So Dan has been working for Major League Baseball, and it's a lot of fun to see Rajay Davis, Jed Lowry. We have a lot of our ex-players who are now working. It's just so many ex-athletics who are now working in Major League Baseball. By the way, we have A's employees now here. Melissa and Deetra are here. I mean, rock stars of the organization. I mean, everybody. Happy birthday, Deetra. Happy birthday, Deetra Page. Yeah, Deetra. It's, Deetra's just a legend everywhere she goes. It's just unbelievable. How are you?
I'm doing great, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm this day 3, a lot going on, and it's like funny, like everywhere we look, there's XA. So we just yesterday, Kurt Suzuki, now a manager.
So happy for him.
Which is just, it's like crazy. It was like I just did at the end of his career. I remember we were doing an interview with him in Oakland, and it was like, Kurt, what are you going to do? Manager was not on the bingo board there. It was not on the board. And then we had Stephen Vogt on.
I'm sorry to hear that.
And then you got, I mean, it's Rajay Davis, it's Jed Lowry working for the league yourself. I mean, there's XAs everywhere.
Yeah. Is that a testament to how good the organization is, or how long we've been around? I don't know.
I think it tells you a lot about what you learn. There's a lot that you learn. We're talking to Brett Phillips, who's now retired from the Rays. And, in certain organizations, you learn a lot. You learn a lot about the business, some of the good, some of the bad. It educates you. I think that there's something very special about when you've played for the A's, you kind of get it.
Well, I mean, putting on the green and gold was awesome. Playing in Oakland, playing at the Coliseum, those years I was there, and the fan base was amazing. And you do learn a lot, and you build friendships. And two of my closest friends in the game now are Stephen Vogt and Sonny Gray. They're still playing. And, you kind of do it together when you're there. And we came up in Sacramento. Another guy, Jesse Chavez, who just got the bullpen coach job with the Giants. So there's always a lot of connections going back to my A's days, and I'm very thankful for those for that time.
Yeah, Jesse wasn't out of baseball long.
No, he was not. No, he was. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he didn't get back with the Braves. I mean, they were just signing him every year, it seemed like.
Yeah. So working for the league, it's now been a few years. How has it evolved for you?
It's been great. I've been there since the fall of 2021. So this is my fourth or fifth winter meetings now in that role, and it's been a fun time. We went through the pitch clock change, we went through some other rule changes, and now this offseason we're kind of introducing the ABS challenge system. So it's a really fun time to be a part of the league, and these innovative ideas that are happening and hopefully not changing, but improving the game for the good. And that fan interaction, I think it's going to be fascinating. So it's evolved in a way that I've never imagined, because I never thought that technology was going to be that big part of the game, but it is where we are, and I'm excited for it.
All right. So it was last year. I think it was a third spring training game. We were over in Surprise. We were taking on either who's there? It's the Rangers and the Royals, the Surprise.
Yeah.
So it's the Rangers, it's the first time I'm ever going to see ABS.
Yep.
Because we've never seen it, right? So it's like first inning, guy challenges. You're like, here we go. Pops up on the thing, ball comes down, strike. It was like 8 seconds. Crowd went nuts. And I went, oh, this is a winner. Because everybody in the crowd loved it.
Loved it. And it's a testament to what our strategy team had done in the AAA level with all of the experimentation of it, collecting the data points. And it was not, I think the average turnaround time in spring training was 14 seconds, right? So that was quick. You were able to get a resolution very quickly. It gives the players, that power to maybe challenge something that they think is wrong. The umpires are going to learn that the players aren't always right all the time either. So it's going to be a learning curve for both sides, and see how they strategically deploy it to their advantage. So I'm excited to see it. I think the fans are very excited to see it. So we'll see it coming in 2026. Yeah,
somebody I can't remember who the player was. It was a guy who got sent down, and it was with the Mariners, and he used up all the challenges. And like the manager flipped out. I'm like, there's like a total strategy of like, who are you going to allow to do it? When can you do it? But when you guys first started looking at ABS, who was more into it? Was it in your guys' group? Was it the former pitchers or the former hitters?
So I don't know, but I remember first hearing about it when I was still playing and having conversations about it with Jed, actually in a meal room somewhere. And I remember him saying, oh man, I can't wait for ABS to come. Like, are you sure? Because if they do it based on the plate, three-dimensionally, that's a lot different than what is actually being called. And then learning how the league office has kind of evolutionized what they define the zone as, I think it's going to be very equitable. I think pitchers think it's going to benefit them. I think hitters think it's going to benefit them. So when that happens, I think we're going to be in a good spot. And we'll see. We'll see who it benefits most. But I will say pitchers should never challenge, because we think everything's a strike, and we're falling off the rubber, at an angle, looking at the plate, and catchers are so dang good at presenting the pitch.
Yeah.
So everything looks like a strike, and then you look at the video, it's like, oh, that was not a strike. I should not have argued that one. So that'll be fun to see.
Yeah, that's it. It'll be, if a pitcher challenges it and the video comes up and it's not even close,
he'll be banned from challenging for a while. Probably
wow.
by his
the manager's going to be like, what are we doing here? Like,
yeah. But there's going to be that component, right? Like when to use it, how to use them, who can use them. Players are going to probably bicker about, hey, why'd you waste a challenge in the first inning? Why'd you do this in the second inning? So it's going to be a learning curve for a lot of people. But like you said, I think fans are going to be very engaged in it, and it's going to be a fun time.
Fans love it.
Yeah, they do.
That was the one thing we noticed. And then I started thinking about, well, there's sponsorship opportunities, because it could be like MasterCard. And then here, there's a lot of things that we can do with that. Obviously we're going to be in Las Vegas. People are, I have now learned from my last guys football trip that when you have the apps like Caesars or MGM, you might be able to bet, will it be a ball or a strike? It'll be, but people need to realize that you guys just don't get in a room and just like, hey, there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of trial and error when there's the pitch clock or the ABS. There's so much that you guys are doing before this ever hits Major League Baseball.
Well, before it even hits the minor leagues, maybe for testing phase, there's so much that goes into it. Even it gets rolled out for the testing purposes. And then after testing, if everything proves like it is beneficial, then it gets into the major leagues after the process with the competition committee. So like you said, there's so much that goes behind the scenes. There's a lot we talk about on a daily basis that never even gets to that experimental phase because, with all the modeling we do and stuff like then talking to players and talking to coaches to see how it could work, it may not be worthwhile. So it has to be impactful and it has to make sense. And then we have to be able to find a way to make it work and actually enact that plan.
There's just so much value in having ex-players who care so much about the game being a part of these decisions and also talking to the current players. But in the decisions, I remember, I don't know if it was Nashville or if it was Dallas, where you told us, yeah, the ballpark in Las Vegas is not going to be a retractable roof. And we were like, wow, because we always thought it was going to be a retractable roof. But then you educated us about how, Arizona, Texas, these Milwaukee, these teams that have retractable roofs, Toronto, they hardly ever even open the roofs.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different things that we just don't know about that you guys are really talking about. It helped make the right decision in Las Vegas.
Yeah, and it's going to be a beautiful stadium.
No doubt.
We were just out there for the GM meeting, so we got a little tour of basically a pile of dirt right now, but it's kind of seeing the foundational aspects going up and the excitement over there is building. It's going to be gorgeous. It's right on the strip. And so I'm excited to see the final outcome there and hopefully it's ready for 2028.
We just opened. You guys didn't go over to the ballpark experience, did you?
No, I don't think so.
Cody, put it. So we opened a brand new ballpark experience, and this is where people are going to go if you want to get a suite or if you want to get a season tickets. You're going to come here to see where you're. I mean, it's got everything. We got a thing called the Cube.
Okay.
That you go into this cube here, and it'll take you to anywhere in the ballpark. It's brand new technology. It's never been used in the United States.
That's awesome. That looks really cool. Yeah, that's about what it looked like. I was standing at home plate, but it was a pile of dirt, and you were looking out over the strip. So, yeah, it's going to be a really neat experience. That's for sure.
Yeah, we were just there doing this, and you started to, the whole foundation, the whole lower deck is being built as we speak, and it was just like it's ahead of schedule. So I'm glad that they updated all of you. That's the other thing the fans need to know. It's not these organizations just don't say, hey, we're going to do this. You guys are all part of the process. And Major League and the commissioner was out there. You guys were out there. Everybody's involved.
Yeah, a lot of people are involved from the beginning stages of the design because there's a lot of things that go on underneath also with the clubhouses and the facilities within the stadium that they kind of have to have. There's some standards that have to be kept because of the CBA and the agreements with the players and the coaches. So all of that needs to be taken into account as they design out the spaces so nothing gets overlooked.
All right, what new things are you guys working on for the future of Major League Baseball?
Oh, man, anything and everything to try to improve the game. There's a lot of stuff that's I think will be thrown out this year in 2026 in the minor leagues to try to maybe clean up some stuff and some innovative stuff that's going to be out there that you might learn about soon. So it's an exciting time.
So still stuff is out there.
Always out there. Every year we're tracking, where we're at as an industry and looking at the K rates, looking at the walk rates, looking at balls in play, looking at what fans want. And fans want action. Fans want balls in play. They like to see doubles. They like to see triples. They like to see stolen bases. So just finding ways to make sure that's still a big part of the game and it doesn't become singularly focused again on just maybe home runs and strikeouts and walks. Yeah. So continually trying to find ways to maybe change player behavior in a sense to give the fans a great experience because they're a big part of this game. The players and the fans, what make this game really great.
Let's end on this. I know you got to go. What's great about doing it in the minor leagues is by the time it hits the major leagues, these minor league guys have already done it. That's what I experienced with the pitch clock. Yep. Like you start asking the young guys about the pitch clock and they're like, yeah, that's not a problem.
Exactly.
Right. Like the older guys, like, I hate this. I can't do this. And then the younger guys are like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for years. I like it. They all like it. Right. And it's like no big deal.
Yeah. And I forgot the percentage of the pitch clock, but it was like 45% of the 40-man rosters that year in 2023 had already experienced it.
Yeah.
So it's similarly this year with ABS Challenge. There's been so many of the young players have been exposed to it. Even some of the younger umpires have been exposed to it. So they know what to expect. So it's not going to be this wholesale, oh my gosh, what did we do change?
Can you pitchers just get on the mound and throw strikes and speed this damn thing up?
That's the only thing I could do because I couldn't strike anybody out. So I had to do that. I had to try to trick hitters and, really try my best, anything I could.
You had some really good years with the
Appreciate
A's.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we will never forget it. Hey,
Thank
great
you.
to see you.
Good to see
Continued
you as always.
success.
Appreciate it.
And keep repping the brand, the A's of Major League Baseball.
That's right.
We love it. All right, what do we got next, Cody?
We got Hembo in about 10 minutes.
All right, Paul Hembekides will join us next from ESPN right here on A's Cast Live.
A's manager Mark Kotsay joined Towny on A's Cast Live to reflect on the seasons of Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson and their impact in 2025.
Well, he's really humble, and that's the first thing that stands out for me. He's just a kind young man that's quietly become a leader. He's obviously outperformed any level of expectation that we had. He's got 3 games left to continue to add on to an already, to me, pretty historic rookie season. So I'm privileged to be able to have an opportunity to manage him and be a part of this success.
Yeah, it's been he's going to be Rookie of the Year, another Rookie of the Year. A lot of rookie years in this franchise's history, and definitely one of the best rookie years of all time. Jacob Wilson finishing strong here at shortstop. What do you think first full season for Jacob? Obviously started the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, another kid that you can say very similar things about. He might not have the power, but the bat-to-ball skills are what separate him. And, I've been so impressed with his maturity this season. A lot of guys, and what I was worried about, in the course of a season, you're going to hit the wall, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get less physical. This young man has actually gotten stronger during the course of the season, which says a lot about the work he's putting in and understanding, what it's going to take to play 160 games. I mean, we've got one individual in our lineup that's going to play all 162 games. The goal is to get 4 or 5 of those guys obviously built up to withstand that type of season and that type of rigor. I mean, for Rook, it's, he gets the DH spot. We're going to work those DH spots to give these guys some breaks, but it'd be fun to see, 6 or 7 guys play 150 plus games.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Looking to stay up to date on all things A's? Head over to athletics.com/A'sCast. That's athletics.com/A'sCast to listen to A's baseball in full 24/7 coverage of the A's, only on A's Cast. With a single click, you can stream great shows, live pre- and post-game coverage, and of course, all the great action of the A's this season. Head to athletics.com/A'sCast today.
The time is now. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun. Spring training is back as the Athletics get ready for the 2026 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, starting on February 22nd, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Dodgers, Giants, Cubs, Padres, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. A's Director of Player Development, Ed Sprague, joined Towny on A's Cast Live to discuss watching Leo DeVries play and what really wows him.
His swing in the on-deck circle is exactly like his swing in the game. Some guys' on-deck circle swing is a reminder of what they're trying to do, swing down the ball or swing up on the ball. His is just perfect balance. His lower half is balance. He talks about his lower half balance. He sees the ball really well. His takes are really good, and that's a good indication of how you're seeing the ball. He takes to the zone. He can check off pitches, and it's very similar from both sides. I saw him probably a little more from the left than I did the right. Not that I've seen a ton, but it looks good. I joked to David. I said, you may have just traded for Juan Soto. So, I hope that brings out to be true. And I know that's high praise on the kid, but in a small sample size, there was certainly a lot to like.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
Streaming from the winter meetings, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
It is almost like we need to have a camera on us when we're not on the air. All the people, a gentleman just came by who's with the Aviators, said Fran Reardon told him to come by and say hello. He's the traveling secretary for the Aviators. It is amazing the people that stop by on a routine basis to say hello. Is the best way to explain where we are at the convention center, the Signia Hilton on Disney property, is basically it's like a smaller version of Radio Row at the Super Bowl. I think everybody's seen videos of that and pictures of that, but we're all just kind of lined up here, and the amount of people that walk by, it's special. It's a great time. Alex Cora, the manager of the Red Sox, is about to walk by. He's going to be doing interviews. It's just really cool to be in this baseball world. I did do for one of show people. I made this earlier. I went through and did some B-roll of the winter meetings. Yeah, go ahead.
So you see MLB Network set when you first walk
they
into
are
the
right, like you walk right into the hotel and they are there. It's kind of odd.
So I did it mainly how you walk in winter meetings or MLB winter meetings, and here's where Sirius is. My friend Mike Farron. This is Ryan Ripken, who's right next to us. He's not on yet.
The son of Cal Ripken.
There's us, Ray, sitting there working hard as always.
So it gives you an idea. Did you do the Yes Network?
I went and did Yeses right here. There's Yes, and then I went down there and showed you. So I guess I cut out SNY, but it was right there. Here's the Athletic. Bleacher Report's here. Foul Territory's down there. So you got like literally a who's who of media sensations that are
remember
here.
when Foul Territory, we had what's his name on?
Scott Braun,
and we were like, yeah, you're going to go to the winter meetings? We're not going to the winter meetings. Not a big deal. I'm like, as you guys get older, as a show, you will be here because this is the place to be. And Foul Territory has gotten more interesting as we have learned more about them as they try and break a lot of news. They have a lot of players, and the original thought was they have a lot of players because they have ex-players hosting the show. And then we found out that the Players Union has invested heavily into the show. It's essentially the anti-MLB network. So MLB network is funded by the league. So you're probably going to get, in theory, favorable talk about what the league wants to do and the initiatives of the league, just the way it works. Same thing with the NFL, NBA, NHL. Everybody has their own networks that they fund. So Foul Territory, which we found out later on, as they did some controversial stuff. They did some controversial stuff about us. You're like, oh, they're being funded by the Players Union.
Yeah, we found that I think it was an Athletic article by Evan Drellick.
Yeah, it was like, oh, there's the dirty little secret. Now we know why they're just so pro-player on everything. And yeah, because they're big. But, it's for me, I root for everybody because this is the space of where we are all going. And I want everybody to be successful. The more coverage of Major League Baseball, the better. I mean, obviously, we're going to have a slant always towards the Athletics. We work for the Athletics, so we're going to be different from everybody else because we're team driven. But that's why I root for everybody in this space. By the way, I have too much information today, so I could go a lot. But some announcements have just come down. You have Kyle Schwarber, you have Bryce Terang, Gunnar Henderson, and Will Smith have all committed to play for Mark DeRosa. Just came down for the WBC.
I'll make sure I put that in the ticker when we get a chance.
Now, remember, let's see, the newest announcements come Tuesday. Aaron Judge, Corbin Carroll, PCA, that's Pete Crow, Armstrong, Bobby Witt Jr., Cal Raleigh, Paul Skeens have all signed on already to play WBC. Mark DeRosa, remember, just randomly showed up to Sacramento.
Oh, that's right. He was there towards the end of the
like
season.
all of a sudden, D-Row came walking by. D-Row, he waved to us, and it was like a secret mission in there. Well, you know who he was probably recruiting.
Big first baseman, rookie of the year.
I think Nick Kurtz was probably on that. Was on that schedule. There's your guy Shelty.
I saw him yesterday. We said hello.
Is he gonna? The Twins' new manager. Is he gonna come on?
I'm hoping the Twins. I talked to the Twins PR yesterday. We're efforting, as we say in the biz.
He's got an interesting. I last night heard their president on, and
is that Derek Falvey?
Feldy, not Feldy.
Felvey, I think it is.
Felvey, yeah, I heard
Falvey?
He was actually really good. And it kind of goes along with where a lot of teams are in Major League Baseball, that the Pohlad family was looking to sell. Now they're just looking to take in investment, and how much money do they have? And, they still got Pablo Lopez and Joe Ryan and that big kid Ober. What's the guy they got for Duran with the Phillies? Akel.
Oh, Nick Abel, yeah.
Nick Abel. So they still got some pitching there. So it's like, it was interesting. But just listening to the business, and we're going to have Kevin Acee on coming up here at 11 o'clock from the San Diego Union Tribune to talk about what really has been the dirty little secret. It's like when you invest in something and you don't have the money and it seems like it's going great, but all of a sudden the bills start coming and you don't have money to pay for it, and it starts to, you owe money and now you're in trouble. That's the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
And that's why I mentioned, for the A's, why not look to see what Fernando Tatis's deal is and what they're getting? Because they got to shed payroll. They can't get rid of Xander Bogaerts. They probably can't move Manny Machado. Can you move Fernando Tatis Jr.? And wouldn't that be a piece? Put him in right field for the Athletics in 2028?
Absolutely.
As I've mentioned, Bryce Harper. That would be interesting to me. Paul Hembekides wouldn't probably like that, Hembo. But, maybe one of the ways that we're looking at getting a potential star player is maybe through trade. He is the genius of ESPN. He is the genius when you look behind the curtain of ESPN, just not the morning show get up where you see him, but it's what he does behind the scenes also for ESPN. You name it. Not only is he an on-air talent, he's the top researcher. What you see Sunday Night Baseball, what you see Monday Night Football. It's the great Hembo, Paul Hembekides from ESPN. Hembo, we miss you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing outstandingly well. How's everything down there at the winter meetings? I'm up here in New York City where it's like 15 degrees. We're struggling. I'm dreaming like Rogers Hornsby about the spring. But you're down there. How bustly has it been? Because it seemed to me yesterday was a tad bit chilly on the hot stove.
The sun is out here in Orlando. It's like 7 o'clock. This is the land of Lululemon pants and quarter zips. That's what you see with a bunch of just middle-aged guys trying to look like they're younger than they are. But this is where the brain trust is, right? This is what's cool about the winter meetings, Hembo, is like this is our convention. This is the only time of year under one roof you get all the decision makers, you get all the managers, you get all the agents, all the who's who, and there's a lot of business. Whether it goes down now or you're planting seeds for later, a lot of business being done. I hear you have a trade between your Phillies and my Athletics that you want to throw out.
I do. There's a player in your starting rotation at the very top of it that I think might well be traded this offseason, despite what everyone says publicly. And I think Luis Severino is going to have a decent amount of value around the league because everyone recognizes that he's a lot better than his statistics last year would indicate. The stuff still plays up. The velocity is still there. He's 2 years removed for being outstanding with the New York Mets. And the Philadelphia Phillies, who are going to see Ranger Suarez very likely walk in free agency, have a couple of potential superfluous infielders. Bryson Stott has a couple more years of control. Alec Boehm has one. And considering the fact that Aiden Miller, our top position player prospect, is, at least in the minds of many prospect experts, ready, if not opening day, not long after, I could easily envision a scenario in which your executives and our executives hop on the phone and figure out if that opportunity might exist. Bryson Stott's going to cost more because it's multiple years of control. It's a premium position, and he plays it fairly well. But Alec Boehm on a one-year deal to play third base, where you can potentially get off that Luis Severino contract and go full-fledged into building that rotation out into the future, makes a good bit of sense to me. What say you?
Here's the problem that everybody needs to understand. Whether Sevy had issues or not, we have to have his innings. His innings mean without innings, we saw what happened when starters don't give you innings. We had death. We lost 20-21. It was Hembo. It was death. It was watching it every night, running out relievers, over and over and over again, burning them out early. I don't know what we would look like without Luis Severino and having him, because the one thing he's reliable, he's durable, and he's going to give you innings. So it's going to be tough I can't imagine not having him, because where do we go? Yes.
Well, you're asking.
Bohm would hit a ton of bombs in Sacramento. I dig that. Yeah. But how do we replace those innings?
So in theory, at least, losing that Severino contract opens up the opportunity to sign a free agent starter or two potentially, and that might be a team-friendlier deal than the one that you just signed with Luis Severino last offseason. And the A's might well decide they want to be in on the trade market. To me, that's not out of the realm of possibility either. It's not that you have your innings covered. It's not that you're working with a surplus in your rotation. Lord knows the exact opposite is the case. But general managers view this much more economically, much more brass taxi than fans might. Yes, you need to replace those innings, but you can very likely replace those innings, which have been at best league average, on a much cheaper basis, candidly. And while I do think that Luis Severino,
there's a lot of sticker shock down here for the starting pitchings that's left.
There is no doubt.
Why we have seen so many trades right now is because let's face it, are we at a breaking point, tipping point, whatever point you want to call it? It is clear that for all these years that we've been down here, guys these front offices would rather spend money than give up their prospect capital. But now it seems like the sticker shock is so big. We're paying guys with 4+ ERAs all this money that now it's like, I'd rather go into the trade market and trade my prospect capital than pay these guys, because these free agent numbers are crazy.
They're crazy, but I think you've identified the exact right point to make. General managers right now across baseball are valuing their prospects, right, wrong, or otherwise, more valuably than they have in the history of baseball, because every single team, at least all the smart ones, have built a model that say trading these guys with all the surplus value available is an unwise decision. So yes, the Toronto Blue Jays attack this from the perspective of, quote unquote, overpaying Dylan Cease, because all I'm giving up is a comp pick and money. I'm not giving up any of my young players. Those are some of the most valuable assets in all of baseball. Your club is fascinating to me because your club is going to be making money hand over fist in the not so distant future. So my question is this going to be an offseason in which you attack the free agent market head on, or is that likely to happen a year or two or even 3 from now? Because if I were a player and if I were a pitcher, despite the ballpark, I would view that situation, that environment, very attractively. Yes, Sacramento is a bandbox, similar to the fact that you'll see players avoid Colorado. However, I'm very confident in the defense behind me, and I'm even more confident in the lineup across from me. This is an opportunity also, if you're a mid-rotation starter, to be a frontline starter somewhere, and every single team across baseball is smart enough to know that your ERA is not a direct reflection of your skill. You're not going to necessarily look at Sevy and say, look, last year, that he was as bad as that ERA might indicate, which is to say pitchers don't have to worry about the ballpark the way that they used to, because every single team across baseball is smart enough to identify the underlying skills that really drive pitcher performance on an individual level and eschew all the noisy stuff, as we like to say in the analytics community.
All right, all my time in the Bay Area, the relationship between Kent and Bonds was always so interesting. Yesterday, Jeff Kent showed up, new Hall of Famer elected by the Veterans Committee, guys from 1980 past. Yesterday was the first day he mentioned Bonds, and I didn't mention Bonds at all. These guys were teammates for a long time, pushed each other. Kent gets in and Bonds doesn't. No one's mentioned that, by the way. And I'm like, what's Barry Bonds think about? But what did you think, Jeff Kent? No Mattingly, no Dale Murphy, who a lot of people thought were going to get in. Carlos Delgado got some votes. Bonds, Clemens, they're not going to be able to be on the ballot for another 3 years. They won't be on the ballot till, I think, 2031 again. They won't be on the next ballot. What did you think about the new Hall of Fame voting and Jeff Kent being a Hall of Famer?
I think that it was extraordinarily ironic that Jeff Kent, who is in the Hall of Fame in large part because he hit behind Barry Bonds for 6 years, wound up getting in on the very same ballot that Barry Bonds drew fewer than 5 votes on. I mean, the irony is dripping. I went back and checked because I couldn't help myself. Between 1997 and 2002, those were the years in which Jeff Kent and Barry Bonds overlapped, of course, in San Francisco. I looked up across the entire league, across both leagues, in fact, who had the most RBI opportunities, which is to say, who came up to the plate with the most runners on base, the most times. Jeff Kent, over that 6-year period, had 108 more RBI opportunities than any hitter in baseball. And as you well know, Jeff Kent hit directly behind Barry Bonds for about 3/4 of the games in which they were in the lineup together. Jeff Kent would not be a Hall of Famer without all those home runs and without all those RBI in San Francisco. And Barry Bonds was the biggest reason why. Jeff Kent before he was a San Francisco Giant, as you well know, not a Hall of Famer. And Jeff Kent after he was a San Francisco Giant, not a Hall of Famer. So yes, they pushed each other. Yes, their relationship with Acee. Yes, both players in their own ways were well-known pricks. However, I do find it to be an extraordinary piece of irony that Jeff Kent,
go ahead. Bad dudes.
Right. So this is not a case in which the writers, as they've done in the past, have penalized players for not being as friendly or as flowery with the media. I mean, Jeff Kent was the very opposite of that. I was listening to an interview recently in which Rich Aurelia, his longtime teammate, said, in effect, no one really knew Jeff Kent that well. He was just kind of there, for lack of a better term. And I don't think anyone would have come away with an interaction from Jeff Kent saying, yeah, that guy belongs in the salt of the earth conversation. But that's, of course, not the point of this, which is to say Jeff Kent doesn't have a single PED blemish. He was a demonstrably lesser player than Barry Bonds, who hit directly in front of him. And yes, while he has the home run totals and the RBI outputs and the MVP that he undeservingly won in 2000, no one with a straight face could sit there and say he was anywhere near the most deserving player on that ballot. In fact, Bonds and Clemens, and for my money, Sheffield for sure, are all players that belong in the Baseball Hall of Fame instead of Jeff Kent. And so for those of you out there that are Baseball Hall of Fame cynics, it's really easy to sneer at the fact that on a ballot that included the best hitter and pitcher we've ever seen, of course, Jeff Kent gets inducted.
What's Barry Bonds thinking? Barry Bonds is just like 7 MVPs. I'm the greatest player of all time. And remember, they fought in San Diego in the dugout, and the relationship was awful. I would love to hear what Barry Bonds thinks right now. I'm not in, but that guy is. All right. Hey, so what do you want to hit? I know we only have so much time with you. You're very busy. What do you want to hit on winter meetings? What do you want to see? What would be on your wish list?
So for me, it's the trade market. I view this free agent class as a fairly ordinary one. We've obviously seen the biggest pitching shoe to drop. I think there are a handful of the usual suspect teams in for Kyle Tucker. And I think those stories are generally run-of-the-mill, ordinary offseason stories. But this trade market could be absolutely drunk, given the fact that Tarik Skubal, who just won back-to-back Cy Youngs, might well be moved, or at minimum, we'll hear his name bandied about over the next week and in a good faith way. The other name that needs to be said aloud is Ketel Marte, who is inarguably the best second baseman in the entire sport with a somewhat team-friendly contract and an Arizona Diamondbacks team that might well be motivated to move him. When you consider the fact that the best pitcher in the American League this past season, perhaps even the last two, and the best second baseman on earth, both might be available in the same cycle, this is a fascinating juxtaposition because there's going to be the same number of teams that you'd expect to be in on some of the 9-figure free agent contract guys. But for someone like Ketel Marte, you might be talking about teams like the Kansas City Royals or the Detroit Tigers, or teams that have the kind of prospect capital, but haven't necessarily spent the way the top of the food chain spenders spend. And for me, this is going to be an offseason defined by those moves and those decisions. Are there going to be first division players traded? We rarely see it because, especially now, as you mentioned off the top, teams are so hesitant to trade their top prospects. I view this as an ordinary free agent class, but an absolutely fascinating group of players that might be traded.
What'd you think of the Dave Roberts talking about a salary ceiling and a floor ceiling, basically saying, yeah, I'm in on a salary cap? The Dodgers manager saying that.
He's just reciting the lines. He's saying the things that he's supposed to. And if you're the manager of the Dodgers, you're going to do whatever you can to get public relations on your side because, of course, your team is the big bad wolf. I think we're a year away from a potential catastrophe, as everyone across baseball knows. They've been spreading this seed for the last 3 years, it seems like. Rob Manfred has been planting with the players for the last few years that this is going to be a really big deal this time around and a big decision that we have to make, whether or not we're going to stand on our soapbox and demand a salary cap. My best guess here is that given the fact that this is likely to be Rob Manfred's last go-round when it comes to CBA, I don't think he's going to be willing to go down with the ship. In fact, I think what Rob Manfred is likely or doing here, and I'd love to hear your feedback on this, is posturing. I think Rob Manfred feels that he has built enough of a legacy the last few years with all the improvements baseball has made that he's going to follow his mentor, Bud Selig, into the Hall of Fame someday, and someday soon. The last thing that he wants to be last remembered for is the reason that baseball loses games or perhaps the season in 2026. I do believe that we're going to see both sides somewhat unsatisfyingly reach a conclusion before opening day of next year. I'm not apocalyptic about this stuff, if only because Rob Manfred is towards the end of his rope. Now, his replacement, his successor, is someone that I have much less confidence in. But in the case of Rob Manfred, I'm just confident enough in the players and the owners finding enough solid ground or firm footing to where we won't lose baseball in future seasons. And a salary cap, I do think, is going to wind up being in the next CBA as
I'll
the
take it a
break-even
step
point.
further. We just had Alden González from your ESPN, and we were just talking about it, where you have all these deals coming up. So we've put all these 3-year deals together. We're going to broadcast. We're going to be on Peacock, and we're going to be on ESPN, and we're going to be on Netflix. So this is the showcase of what's going to happen in 3 years, where you're going to try and do these mega deals like the NBA. Well, if you shut down your sport, what negotiating are you going to be able to have? How are you going to go to whether it's Amazon Prime or Netflix and Paramount, or how are you going to go to them if you just shut down your sport?
Yeah, now's not the time. Now is absolutely not the time,
Not
given
bad.
the amount of, the media rights are a far bigger fish for Major League Baseball to fry than a salary cap, which they know is going to have to be associated with a firm floor. And all of a sudden, there's going to be all sorts of disinterested parties. I think the term salary cap is candidly overused, and I understand why it's verboten. We already have one. It's a soft cap. No one abides by it that can spend. And my earnest hope is that some similar model sort of rolls its way into the future, because I think that's what's best for the game.
Well, people need to get used to this guy, because I can tell you, when we get to Las Vegas in 2028, Paul Hembekides is going to play a huge role in what we do. He'll be a part of it. Of course, he's a star at ESPN, but he is going to be a part of what we do in 2028. I can guarantee you that. Hembo, my friend, you be well. And we didn't talk LeBron James. We didn't talk about the Cowboys.
They're in the division race again, since your Eagles stink.
Okay, Coach. Okay. We'll have the chance to catch up a little bit on a fun book project that you and I have discussed over the last few years that's starting to reach a point where we'll actually be able to say it out loud. So I look forward to that.
How many times have you been a New York Times bestseller?
I've only been a New York Times bestseller once, but I have co-authored 3 books with Mike Greenberg on sports history, and I got my first baseball one in the hopper.
You've been working on this one for a long time.
And you best believe it'll be well worth every day we spend, my friend, every single day.
And we will pimp this thing like you wouldn't believe. All right, Hembo, be well, my friend.
You're a good man.
The great Paul Hembekides. I'm telling you, everything you see on Sunday Night Baseball, everything you see on Monday night, he is the top. So not only is he an on-air talent on the morning show, which we never see because it's so early in the morning West Coast. Like, what time does it come on? Like,
well, I mean, technically,
6 or something like that.
Technically, we could wake up and watch it here because it's early.
That's right. We're on the East Coast, but I mean, he's off the air before I even get up.
Well, I had to take a shot at him because you knew that last night with the the Eagles choking away that game against the Chargers.
Chargers and OT. Harbaugh,
one of the best coaches in the history of Monday Night Football.
Well, the funny thing is, we're going to have the Giants manager on.
That's the plan. I
What
tried
time?
to supposed to be like around 3:30.
Old Tony V, and that's something I'm going to bring up. Baseball's archaic, but I'm old enough to remember Jimmy. Do you remember when Jimmy Johnson left Miami for the Cowboys?
I wasn't even born yet, but I know.
You weren't
the
even
story.
born yet?
No.
How old is Tony?
Actually, I would have been like very young when that happened. Tony's in his late 40s. I think he's like maybe 47.
So he will remember it. Yeah,
47.
They thought firing Tom Landry, the legendary coach Tom Landry, and bringing in Jimmy Johnson was going to be a disaster.
I did watch the Jerry's thing. That's how I know.
How did that work?
They were pretty good.
2 Super Bowls. And then after Jerry and Jimmy split, they brought in even a more decorated college coach, Barry Switzer from Oklahoma, one of the dirtiest coaches and one of the great coaches of all time. Love Barry Switzer. Barry Switzer came in as a college coach and won a Super Bowl. So in other sports, we've seen college coaches come to the pro ranks and win. This is the most modern day experience. Seeing Towny leave the University of Tennessee and go for the San Francisco Giants. Buster Posey just walked by a few minutes ago. So it'll be interesting to talk to the Giants manager. Is he setting a precedent? Because if he shows up in San Francisco and wins, every league's a copycat league, and you could see college coaches now making the jump.
Yeah, because I think the only other sport my buddy and I were talking about this with Vitello. The only other guy I could think of that had success, but he didn't win. He won as an executive because he transitioned was Brad Stevens when the Celtics hired him.
Yeah, he won a lot.
He coached in the finals, but now he's like the president of basketball operations for them. So they won a title already, but he didn't win as a coach. But he's the guy that jumped from Butler after taking a really small school to the national title back-to-back years. And he's had success with the Celtics over the last decade.
And remember, John Madden. I mean, John Madden cut
winning his coach on the history of Monday Night Football.
John Madden cut his teeth in college football before the pro ranks, and he was God, how young was he when he was like early 30s when he because he went, check it. Madden went from San Diego State under Don Coryell to the Raiders, and he was like a linebacker D-line coach, right?
Madden, he was hired by Al Davis as a linebackers coach in 1967.
But he came from San Diego State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he went from – and San Diego State was lower college. That was back when it was a little bit different. They were lower college football. That was an incredible staff. I remember my dad would always talk. You had Joe Gibbs on that staff. You had NFL Hall of Famers. But he went from lower-level college football to the Raiders and then got the job as the head coach of the Raiders, and he's one of the most successful coaches in the history of the NFL and is a Hall of Famer, and obviously for what he did as a broadcaster, the great John Madden. But, I mean, going from college to pro in other sports hasn't been that big of a deal. Baseball, this is a big deal.
Yeah, because we haven't seen it. And
I mean, it's a precedent that could be like Noah. But I want to get back to, because if you were around it like I was in my days at KMBR, I was around. I started working at KMBR before Jeff Kent got traded from Cleveland for Matt Williams. And I remember Giant fans, and you could understand Matt Williams was your dude, right? He was your guy. Him and Will Clark, they had been to the World Series, the big Marine. And we loved Matt Williams when he was coaching under Bob Melvin. Matt Williams, super guy. But that was such a heated deal between him and Bonds when Jeff Kent came over. That was just such it was a horrible relationship. It was an awful clubhouse. I mean, we had JT Snow on. I've known JT for years. But remember when JT was on and we talked about it and he just talked – the clubhouse was just not – it was not friendly. And you really had some good dudes in there. I remember Rob Nen was a great guy. There was like certain guys who were some big-time players. But essentially the clubhouse, it was Bonds and Kent, and it was not a friendly place. And they didn't get along. I don't even know how many people got along with Bonds, and I don't think really anybody got along with Kent. So they were both, as Himbo said, they were both very prickly.
That was a nice way of putting it.
And it was just unfriendly going. And I was a young guy. I was a young radio guy, and I was going into that clubhouse, and it just, because Pac Bell opened up, and I was on the morning show with Gary Radnich, and I'd be going in there, and it'd just be like, it was just awful. I'll never forget Larry Krueger and I, going into this Candlestick Park. Bonds had the hurt elbow. This is when the steroids, where his body was starting to really struggle with the stick because he was getting so big and he hurt his elbow. And he was in this brace, and he was the only guy in there. And we walked in and said, "Hey, Barry, how you doing? Chris Downs, Larry Krueger, KMBR. Hey, just if we could just get a moment with you." He wouldn't even look at us. And he looked into his locker and he goes, "I don't do anything when I'm out. When I'm out, I'm out." And that was it. Okay. And, you're just used to it, right, at that point. And I just can't imagine what Barry Bonds is thinking today. As steroids or not steroids, Barry Bonds is the best player I ever saw. I've told the story about what Barry did to me when I was making him money. Okay? So if you ever read Game of Shadows, he had this handler. It kind of looked like Michael Jackson. And they came into KMBR, and this is when Barry's agents at the time, don't know who they were. They were trying to soften his image because they were trying to sell him nationally because he's doing these amazing things. He should be getting the Michael Jordan type love, right? That was the feeling. So they're trying to soften his image. He was going to do a weekly thing on KMBR. He was going to be doing some sponsorships. So he was coming in to the studios to cut some commercials on the weekend. I had to set up the studio. I had to go to the elevators. I had to let them in. I had the scripts printed out. I had it all ready. And we went into the studio. So this has nothing to do, because people would always say, you're just media and you're jilted and you're just mad because he big leagued you. This had nothing to do with media. I was not media that day. I was the guy helping him get a paycheck. That's who I was on that day. And I set it all up, started the process, and Barry Bonds had problems reading the scripts. Now, when you have the microphone on and the light goes on and you're reading a script, and it can be hard for people because it's the way scripts are written for commercials. It's not in the way that you talk. It's not conversational, right? Somebody else has written this script out. Now you've got to read it. So you're probably a little bit nervous. And Barry starts taking it out on me about the scripts. I didn't write the scripts. I have nothing to do with this. I'm just recording this and I'm trying to get it to the advertiser to make you money. I bolted. I just said, dude, let me know when you guys are done. I wasn't going to take his S-bomb. And I walked out. And then the guy came and got me. The squiggly little guy, his manager, came and got me. I went and cut it all up and did whatever. But it was like Barry had no reason to start like almost yelling at me, like getting on me about the scripts. And so dealing with Bonds was awful. And I know a lot of people have had to deal with him away. I knew people a friend of mine was his father, Bobby, a friend of mine was Bobby's golf partner. I know a lot about Barry Bonds away from the field, and it is what it, but Barry is the greatest player I ever saw. Steroids or not steroids, Barry Bonds, I don't care what you say. Love Ricky. Love a lot of guys. Nobody was better than Barry Bonds.
162.8 WAR. That's pretty good.
I don't care, steroids or not. Barry Bonds is the best player I've ever seen.
He was a Hall of Famer before the steroids. He was a Hall of Famer. He was he was a Hall of Famer after that. In my opinion, as much as Pirate fans don't like him, he's in the Pirates Hall of Fame and all that now. He was a Hall of Famer after the first year in San Francisco. Don't even base off of what he did after.
He had 3 MVPs.
Yeah, he was a Hall of Famer then.
He was great. Dude, his defense was phenomenal. The only knock on him of being a 5-tool player is he couldn't throw. He was Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Thanks, Sid Bream.
But he was so gifted athletically that he made up for that in left field. And he has his baseball IQ. When you talk hitting with Barry Bonds, if you ever heard Barry Bonds talk about, it's off the charts. The guy is a baseball genius. I mean, his vision, the knowing what pitchers would throw. If you saw that video on MLB Network where it was Maddox talking about facing Bonds, every single pitcher from that area goes, "Oh, Bonds is the best." I mean, it's not even close. No disrespect to anybody. No disrespect to Gwynn, Boggs, guys who look for the higher average guys. No disrespect to the great power hitters. I didn't see Mantle. I didn't see Mays. I didn't see Williams. I didn't see DiMaggio. I didn't see those guys. The best player I've ever seen is Barry Bonds, hands down. The guy remember, he had over 500 stolen bases. That had nothing to do with steroids. He had 500 stolen bases.
514 to be exact.
He is the only 400, and then he became the only 500 guy. I mean, come on.
Also was a 40-40 guy.
So you're not in the Hall of Fame and Jeff Kent is? Now, I do think Jeff Kent is a Hall of Famer. There's no question in my mind. The guy's the greatest power hitting second baseman in the history of baseball. But to think Barry Bonds is not in the Hall of Fame and Jeff Kent is just such I would love to know what Barry Bonds is thinking today. All right, our next guest is a man that I had for years on, because when you talk San Diego Chargers back in the day, he was the guy to talk to. Now, with the Chargers being gone, he's the San Diego Padres. Kevin Acee from the San Diego Union Tribune. How are you?
Fantastic. I'm sorry that I'm late. You get caught talking to people here. It's the whole thing.
Well, it's our convention, right? Like I said to people, I said, you know what? When we go to commercial break, it's amazing the amount of people that come over, talk to you, and everything. Padres are definitely one of the most fascinating teams here at the meetings, and they have been for the last few years. I just talked about it before you came in about Peter Seidler, who was the owner, unfortunately passed away from cancer, but he wanted to win desperately in San Diego. It's one of those deals where you went out and you bought something you couldn't afford, and now all of a sudden here comes the bills and you don't have the money. And people, they applauded AJ Preller. They applauded the Padres. Look at all the money. And then all of a sudden there's no television content. We are with the Seidler brothers who are running the team. I know there was a fight with Peter Seidler's ex and the brothers, but the brothers have control. Padres spent a lot of money. They didn't win the World Series. They drew 3.4 million fans, was a big deal. But now there's an issue with the payroll. Where are we in San Diego?
Yeah, it's multifaceted. You summed it up, pretty well. There's, it's almost impossible to sum it up, right? Look, Peter Seidler deserves a lot of credit. The fans deserve a lot of credit. Second highest attendance in baseball, and it's like top 5 over the last 4 years, ever since past COVID. So that enables the Padres to spend money. But the fact is, they extended themselves too far. They got in trouble with the MLB's debt ratio limits. They got out of that. They still been in the playoffs 2 years in a row. But it is very difficult. Whatever you say about the finances, and whether you believe, Hal Steinbrenner and the Yankees lost money, whether you believe that or not, take a look around the rest of the top 10, top 15 in payroll. They're not San Diego-sized markets. The Padres have had over $200 million payroll several years in a row, and been in the top 10 all but one of the past 5 years or 6 years. And look, probably the best thing to happen is that you could get an owner who can actually afford the team. And, when I say that, I mean like a Guggenheim. I mean, like a Steve Cohen. I mean, going into other sports, a Steve Ballmer. Not that those always work out, but, it is tough for you with what the Padres have is an inability to have bad contracts, because you still got to pay those, and then you got to trade. And they've won a couple winter meetings. They've won a couple trade deadlines. I haven't seen any trophies in the case for winning those. So it is a fascinating team to cover, though. There's always something.
It is. It truly is fascinating. I told you off the air when Bob Melvin first got hired and he got over there, then he realized what he was getting into. It was a fascinating day in A's history, because that was the Padres were coming over to Mesa. They traded Sean Manaea, who was supposed to pitch for us that morning, gets traded to the Padres, and then pitches against the A's that day with his green glove and green cleats. He was crying that morning in the clubhouse, cleaning his stuff out as he would walk over. I would then go over and talk to my guy, Melvin. I did the Bob Melvin show for 8 years, and Melvin's like, this is a house of cards. He was telling me like they're spending money. And then we've watched it as fans and the media applaud it. I think the people behind the scenes knew this was not sustainable. And this goes back to all the fans that always say owners just need to spend more, spend more, spend more. You can get yourself in trouble.
Yes. And again, it's like the fans should be applauded, and Peter Seidler should be applauded. There's a lot of things that Peter Seidler did that, and look, I've written about it too, but people don't want to see it when it's exciting, right? Oh, they're signing more guys. And what is it every year? The Toronto Blue Jays just signed Dylan Cease for $220 million. Hey, that's fantastic. But all this talk that he is going to be a star there, he had a 4.34 ERA last year.
5.5 on the road.
That guy's stuff, I watched him every game, by the way, for the last 2 years. That guy's nasty. Like, that guy is phenomenal. but the results are kind of important. But like the shiny new thing's always going to distract people. Well, this was never sustainable for the Padres is my point. That like, but people didn't want to hear that. People wanted to think, oh no. And then the internet has a way of deceiving people sometimes. If you Google Peter Seidler, you can find places that tell you he's a billionaire. No, he owned a company, was a part owner, by the way, in a company that managed billions of dollars. He was not a billionaire. People haven't been paying attention if they were surprised by the financial troubles that the Padres have. But to your point, it's because it's what people want. And again, I always have hesitated to in any way even tiptoe around tarnishing Peter Seidler's legacy. But facts are facts. I mean, he pushed some contracts through that are now haunting the Padres.
Mason Miller, probably because of we're hearing about Nick Pavetta's got to go. We're hearing Cronenworth. I don't know if anyone's going to take that contract. And I want to get to because there's a guy that I think for the A's would be interesting. And now that we've done business, did you realize David Force, our general manager, and AJ Preller for years have played basketball against each other?
Yeah.
So they know each other real well. So there's always going to be that connection. But we are super excited about Leo DeVries. And I know a lot of Padre fans don't let him go. Your time being around the Padres, what do you know about Leo DeVries and what we're getting with this kid? Because he seems like he's going to be all world.
I'll start with that. There's not many trades that the Padres make where you get the level of and look, they were ecstatic. Obviously, you don't make that trade if you're not, to get Mason Miller, and not just for 2025, but obviously the control that you have in a guy like that. And they knew Robert Suarez was going to leave. And he's going to be their closer. Ecstatic to get Mason Miller. That's the move they needed to make. But you don't often hear wow, that was a big one. We lost, but that was a big one. Teams know more about their prospects than other people, right?
Yeah.
We all think that we know, right? Rank the top 30 and all that. The Padres loved Leo DeVries. He's the first member of the family. That's what they'll call the real number ones, right? The Tatises of the world that were their number one prospects. You could argue Mackenzie Gore, James Wood, who they sent away for Juan Soto to the Nationals, were part of the family, but maybe they were first cousins. Leo DeVries was a brother that they traded. That's how highly they thought of him. But that's the price of, that they had. I could name another trades where it's a bummer. You sometimes have to, spend money to make money. And in this case, it was, you had to spend the capital of a prospect to get what you got back in Mason Miller, because the Padres they don't have the money necessarily. All those trades they made at the trade deadline last year, including Mason Miller, and they made 5, they did not spend $1 to do that based on what they gave away and all that. Yeah. They had to find a way to do it. And one of the ways to do that was to spend Leo DeVries.
Well, that's why one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because A's fans, they love Mason Miller. We had him on all the time. He's a great guy. He's just a salt of the earth guy. Agreed. But you're we may have got a generational player.
Yes. And I'm always going to support the idea of trading away a prospect for an established player, because baseball, we both did a lot of football. A little more of a sure thing there, right? When you're talking generational players. But yes, the A's, who have to operate a certain way, from my understanding from the outside, may have pulled one of those where this guy is going to be starting for a long time and doing special things for a long time. Now, let's just be honest, though. He's got some proving to do before he can become as good as former Padre Brent Rooker. Okay, Brent Rooker, I met him once in Milwaukee. They and then they traded him to the Royals for a catcher they never used, and then he was let go by the Royals. And I just think it's one of the greatest stories in baseball.
Twins people say the same thing. They're we drafted this guy. We thought he'd be great, but now he is great. And Brent Rooker, another guy that sometimes it's the right time. He was the last. Christian Pache and him, it was the last decision of spring training. Do we go with Rooker or Pache? Boy, did they make the right decision there. Contracts that got to be moved. Fernando Tatis Jr., does he need to be moved?
Well, not now, okay, because that there's a lot going on there. First off, you're giving away a generational talent. This is a guy who had was it an 820 OPS last year? And it was a terrible year for Tatis.
Yeah.
Terrible. I'm exaggerating, but
his right fielder.
a bad year for him, and he still had whatever. He had led all right fielders or all outfielders in WAR. It was, I mean, he was by far the Padres' best player, most important player. Is yes, you're right about right field. So no, eventually, might they have to? Absolutely, but who's going to be the new owner? He's the only movable contract. You can't move Manny. You can't move Xander Bogaerts.
By the way, breaking news here, the Philadelphia Phillies will be bringing back Kyle Schwarber, 5 years, $150 million. That is not a shocker. But then now what that does, now it's like the big domino. Now when the big guy signs, we've been waiting. Now what happens with Tucker and Pete Alonso and Bellinger? Maybe we'll start getting some more action here at the winter meetings.
And then maybe some of the other guys that teams like the Padres are looking at to play, say first base or a power hitter.
Nick Pivetta, that's a name that's out there right now.
Yeah, look, I'm never going to talk about another person's report when they're the first person to report that and somebody else did. And I'm not going to talk about it in a derogatory way. Name me a player, and I'll tell you AJ Preller is thinking about trading him or trading for him, and I'd probably be right. I'm not saying, now listen, that is, look, the Padres have discussed or listened to some extent teams that would be interested in AJ Preller, because all you hear around here, or listen to on Nick Pivetta, because all you hear around here is how expensive free starting pitching is going to be.
Yeah.
So you're calling on everybody and you're saying, okay, yeah. Now here's the deal on that. Another team's going to have to give the Padres a lot. And that team is probably going to lose Nick Pivetta after 1 year. He's an opt-out after this year. So Nick Pivetta does not need to be moved. There's a lot of complications to moving that because it creates a hole. They would have to have, now listen, they are working on also with, say, Jake Cronenworth, perhaps moving Ramon Laureano. So they don't want to move any of these guys. But if all three of those guys could be moved, it frees up a certain amount of money. But they have got to get back 2 starting pitchers, a left fielder, and a second baseman if they trade those guys. So, yes, it's possible. Every year we hear about something that's possible with AJ Preller because he talks about everything. That's why he's able to pull moves, 5 moves on trade deadline day, because they are constantly, the Padres are, more than anyone, talking about every possibility.
It's like Billy Beane back in the early 2000s. The Moneyball days. You're like, is it possible? Anything's possible. AJ Preller, like literally anything's possible. When people ask you questions, anything's possible.
And then I learned over time, everything I say, even if I'm terribly certain about it, even if someone who, I trust, or 3 sources that I trust tell me something, there's always an asterisk. I don't ever know with AJ Preller. I just don't. Like, take a look at what he's done. In terms of major league talent that has been shipped out or back, he's unafraid to do anything. I can come across like I'm gushing because I admire the philosophy. The guy's made mistakes. Here's the thing, my favorite AJ Preller story, that I can tell, and to me it's my favorite because it speaks to who he is. A couple years ago they had 10, not counting the 4 guys that were Padres that were all-stars, they had 10 former Padres that were all-stars. And so I call AJ from the All-Star game, want to do a story or want to get a quote from him, got a quote from all these other people about it. It might have been one of our best interviews ever. He was so proud of that because it spoke to what he and his scouting group do. Completely not ashamed, nothing, just happy as heck that, yes, we could say that 10 former Padres are in the All-Star game because we had those guys. We tried.
Yeah. You're able to evaluate talent and good talent.
And then, you trade some of it away, or guys leave in free agency because you can't afford them, or you had to spin that. Leo DeVries might be one of those guys one day.
Yeah.
They say, yeah, we had him, man. We had him.
Let's hope he's one of those guys someday.
And to them, it's worth it if Mason Miller then helped pitch them to a World Series title.
So you see for sure Mason staying as closer?
Virtually for sure.
Okay.
First off, not only did both Craig Stammen, the new manager, and AJ Preller basically say it yesterday, that supported what had been being said since the offseason, which is a lot of people in that organization have been saying, nah, that's not worth it. That's just not worth it. And also Mason was into it from my understanding, but not like, yeah, I got to do it.
So Stammen didn't really want to do it. Then they had to talk him into being the manager.
Yeah, so if you want leaders who, some people say the most effective leaders are people who didn't want the job. So I happen to think as highly of Craig Stammen as I do of almost anyone I've ever covered. Will he be a good manager? I don't know. I know that he's got the respect of some key people in that clubhouse because he played with them. Probably the most influential relief pitcher I've ever covered. I didn't cover Trevor Hoffman, but the most influential in a clubhouse. And if you've covered a clubhouse, you know that relief pitchers don't have a big, broad reach like a position player or even a starting pitcher.
One guy you did cover, making a comeback. Couldn't believe it last night. I'm over at Disney Springs at the Boathouse, and I'm sitting there. It's weird Monday Night Football starting at 8:15 on the East Coast, right? So they're doing the pregame show, and it says, Phillip Rivers is coming back with the Colts maybe at 44. And I was like, wow. I mean, he's got, 11, 12 kids? Maybe it's time to get out of the house.
He's got 10 kids, a grandchild. His high school football team was knocked out of the state playoffs in the semifinals a couple of weeks ago. I went and saw him, and he craves competition is what Phillip does. He almost came back to a couple years. Teams have called them, and it just hasn't gotten out over the past few years. So he still talks to NFL coaches. He's still, game plans in his head. He loves coaching high school football. His son was the quarterback this year. I think his next son's going to be the quarterback after this. And he loves it, but he craves competition.
44, but he's up for the Hall of Fame, right?
I believe this is first year. Yeah.
What do you think Phillip Rivers has at 44 years old for the Indianapolis Colts?
I think that he I think that he will know the game plan, and it is interesting as much as, look, I'm unabashed. Phillip Rivers, the greatest human being that I've ever covered. And
he's a Hall of Famer.
More than what he got with the Chargers, but that's a tough call. But it was funny because when I saw him a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about Joe Flacco and, whether he could do it. Let me tell you, Phillip thinks he can do anything, and he's incredibly smart, and he's up on the Colts system. And I think that, I think that they'll manage it around Phillip. Obviously, they're going with Phillip over anything else they had, so they think it's their best shot.
You have done an unbelievable job for many years in San Diego, whether it was the Chargers, now the Padres. I've always appreciated having you on. Thank you so much. Enjoy the winter meetings, and I'm sure this offseason will continue not to be dull for the Friars.
Yeah, it never is. Thanks, man. Thanks.
We got more coming up next from the Winter Meetings 2025 in Orlando, Florida, right here on A's Cast Live.
For being the best in customer satisfaction in sales, service, and finance. Step up to the plate for our biggest selection of new Ford models, including the legendary F-150, on sale now. Shop Folsom Lake Ford, your truck headquarters in the Folsom Auto Mall. FolsomLakeFord.com.
That ball is out of here.
Looking to stay up to date on all things A's? Head over to athletics.com/A'sCast. That's athletics.com/A'sCast to listen to A's baseball in full 24/7 coverage of the A's, only on Cast. With a single click, you can stream great shows, live pre- and post-game coverage, and of course, all the great action of the A's this season. Head to athletics.com/A'sCast today.
Do. Hey, G. Dr. Emo.
Pitching coach Scott Emerson joined Chris Townsend on A's Cast Live to break down the resurgence of the A's bullpen and the strategy behind its second-half success.
Well, you can't forget our skipper, Mark Kotsay. Each and every day before the game, we sit in Kotz's office and we go over the game plan and trying to put our pitchers in the best situations for them to pitch in each and every game. I think, as far as the closer role goes, if you're looking at data in today's game and you're looking at what some of the best teams roll out there, they might be throwing their best reliever in the seventh inning per that run. We call a 3-batter run. So, of course you would like to have a closer who's a dominant closer. If you get a guy like Mason Miller at the back end of the bullpen or somebody like that that has a proven track record as a closer, that's a different story. when you have guys that we got right now that haven't had that proven track record, but they're succeeding at the back end. You know, Michael Kelly has saved recently. Hogan Harris has saved recently. Ferguson's had some saves recently. Will Sterner get some more saves in the opportunities next year? I think what we've at least done is build a foundation of guys that we trust. And when you got guys that you trust down there, it's a lot better than when you don't have anybody that you trust in that bullpen.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
The time is now. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun. Spring training is back as the Athletics get ready for the 2026 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, starting on February 22nd, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Dodgers, Giants, Cubs, Padres, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. A's general manager David Forst sat down with Chris Townsend on A's Cast Live to credit Mark Kotsay and his staff for their growth and leadership throughout the 2025 season.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the way Mark and his staff kind of weathered the storm earlier in the year. I mean, it was a tough stretch we went through, and they never sort of wavered from their process. They never sort of stopped putting in the work, make sure the players put in the work. And Mark has really grown a lot over his 4 years, no doubt. You know, not only sort of in those 3 hours you see, you know, between the lines, but everything else he does behind the scenes, managing the staff, managing the players, making sure everything's in place. He's really done a great job.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
Streaming from the winter meetings, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
All righty. We've been waiting for this. The manager of your Athletics, Mark Kotsay, is here. And everybody needs to know that you want a strong leader. You want a leader that you know will be able to handle his own business. Currently, right now, over at SiriusXM, Power Alley, you do a show with them once a week. They have a grip strength tester over there for all the managers. Currently, you are the leader in the clubhouse. You are the strongest manager in Major League Baseball.
My wife wouldn't say that after, not working out for the last 2 months, but hand strength, that's something that you just don't lose, right? I mean, I guess if there's one thing that I feel strongly about, it's a good, strong handshake.
And there's younger guys now who are managing, and you're taking all these guys down.
We'll see. I don't think it's done yet.
You're the leader in the clubhouse.
Well, feels good to be the leader in the clubhouse, yes.
Yeah. It's like day 3 of the Masters, and you're the leader. You haven't won the green jacket yet, but you are the leader. How are the meetings going for you?
Well, I got in last night, and MLB Radio was the first thing on the docket this morning. Now it's A's Cast.
Did you say anything important over there?
Not really. I mean, the biggest announcement during my MLB Radio show is that Kyle Schwarber signed back with the Phillies for 5 years.
Yeah, that's not a shocker.
No, I think that's where he belongs. I mean, it's, you as players, I think you get accustomed to your routines and your environment, and it's difficult to make that change. And I think for Kyle, he's found it a great place that he feels really good being, there in Philly, and the success he's had. it didn't surprise. That doesn't surprise me that he wanted to stay there and he signed back.
And it looks like Edwin Diaz has signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Here the Dodgers are being quiet, and now they signed the number one reliever on the market. We don't know years, and we don't know – do we know years? So it's coming down. So we just know that he has signed with the Dodgers. We don't know years. You know, we
3
had,
years. It's got to be 3 years.
3 years.
I would say 3 years and what, 75, somewhere in that ballpark.
85,
probably.
somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So yesterday, Billy Owens was on here, Athletics assistant general manager, and he was talking about the biggest strength for you is the fact that you kind of did everything in your career, right? You were a number one pick. You were a darling coming up with the Marlins. You played 17 years. You were a primetime player. You were an older player. You've been through everything in the game, and that can truly help you help players. And that's why when I think of the winter meetings, and we can talk to you about Schwarber and be like, why is it a good fit to go back? Why is it a good fit to go somewhere else? You have the answers for all that because you experienced all that in your career.
Well, I don't know if they're the answers, but I mean, it definitely, I think, you know, we all like to lean on experiences to you know, form an opinion about situations. And this is one where, you know, unfortunately, I never had that type of career that Schwarber's had. But that being said, I do know what it feels like to be traded. I do know what it feels like to sign as a free agent, you know, and so those things, you know, form that opinion about Kyle where, you know, there's a lot about family that we don't think about, that fans don't think about, you know, how comfortable you get, you know, whether your kids are in school, you know, and you've made it your community. Something that I really want to push for in Vegas. I love, you know, the thought process of having our own stadium and being able to have a group of guys work out there in November and December and January and drop into the stadium and, you know, be able to hang out and even have lunch with the guys in the off season. It gives you a head start. It gives you an opportunity to build, you know, a better relationship, a tighter bond. You know, one of the great things this offseason that took place was Tyler Soderstrom's wedding. You know, we had quite a few guys out there, Britt Rooker, you know, Jacob Wilson, just to name a couple, Shea Langley-Ayers. I mean, there were guys, Max Muncy, and they were all hanging out together. And that says a lot about the culture of this club coming together and wanting to spend time, you know, with each other. And that's great.
And something that David told us and we'll talk to David Forrest tomorrow, the general manager of the Athletics, but he told us down when we opened up the Experience Center about some players that have been offered some contract extensions, like what we saw with Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker. Takes two to tango, right? Like both sides got to agree, but that's got to make you feel good that some of your younger players are trying to make that commitment to get them to sign, get them to be here, get through Sacramento and get into Vegas.
Yeah, 100%. You know, we have two players on the roster that are committed to Vegas. You know, with Butler and Rook, it'd be great to have another four. You know, that nucleus of guys that really led us over the last 2 months offensively, you know, would be great to keep them together. It reminds me of you know, those teams in the past with the A's nucleus that came up together. And, you know, it's definitely encouraging that the offers are out there. And like you said, it takes two to tango. You know, as an organization, we love to make that commitment to these guys, but they also have to be in the right place for their lives, their families, their careers to also accept that commitment.
Yeah, you know, yesterday we were going over pitching, and we had Scott Emerson on, and I went through a whole list, and I sent it to him, and he likes it. When I just start thinking of Severino, Springs, Morales, Lopez, Perkins, Ginn, then you got Jump, Net, Estes, Hoagland, Barnett, Basso, Waldachuk, Medina, Baez, Spence. You've got a lot of potential starting pitching going into spring training. How does that make you feel?
No, it's great. I mean, we need depth. We saw that this year. You know, the more depth you can have at the starter within starting roles, you know, the better opportunity you're going to have to kind of get through the adversity of a season. We know that really well. We also know that, you know, the starters set the tone.
Yeah.
And, for Severino and Springs, having a year under their belt, pitching in the Sacramento ballpark, I think they've got a head start now. We've worked out, the kinks in terms of how the park plays. I think we've improved our defense, which also leads to a lot of confidence. But those names that you said and the excitement around them, I talked a little bit on MLB radio about it. The young pitching kind of reminds me of the young position players that have now come into fruition, right? It's the 23 season, we took our lumps. 24 season, we got better. In the 25 season, they improved. And we're talking about the position player group. Well, this young pitching group with the Jump, Net, Baez, Echeverria, which I don't know if you mentioned him. He's a little bit younger, but he's still a highly touted prospect in our organization. And then you've got Arnold, right? So there's a collection of young starters. And if we can get 1 or 2, 3 of those guys to hit and have impact at the big league level, whether that's this season or next, it'll really help us.
Yeah, I see Arnold, the number 1 pick out of Florida State, probably being more a last year in Sacramento guy. I don't know if he'll make it up to the big leagues next year, but yeah, you're talking like a Chris Sale-like talent.
Yeah, I really believe, we saw a young starter with the Blue Jays pitch in the World Series.
Yeah.
Right. And there was an accelerated path for him. But that's encouraging. And that's something that takes a lot of courage, I think, as an organization to promote a young pitcher. But he really had a lot of success throughout his minor leagues in a very
Savage
short
was
path.
very accomplished. But I think about you.
Well, so was Jump,
Yeah.
and Arnold to a certain extent.
How long did it take you to you jumped up to the big leagues right away?
I was drafted in 96. I was in the big leagues July 11th of 97.
On a World Series team.
On a World Series team. I had 18 days before Leland sent me back to Double-A and told me, can you figure out not rolling over to second base so much?
Did you do it with a cigarette?
Well, he blew smoke too, yeah. I mean, I really like you, kid. Hey, I really like you, but hey, go back Double-A and figure it
out. The big question for you, what do you look at here at the winter meetings? A lot of people talk about second base, third base. I'm kind of a let's let Max Muncy play and let's see what he's got at third base. But what do you think in second and third?
I mean, it'd be nice to bring someone in with the back of a baseball card that's got some experience, that plays good defense at 1 or 2 of those positions. But I do believe, I'm confident in the crew that's going to go into spring training, and I've talked to all of them that you better come ready to play. You better come ready to compete, because there's jobs in front of you that you need to win out of spring training. There's a group there. You look at Hernandez, you look at Harris, you look at Muncy, that are going to come into camp and really want to compete for those jobs. Schumann, who's been a utility guy this last season. But yeah, there's definite competition. But again, if we can target and identify someone that we feel confident in bringing in that can help this club, I see us trying to accomplish that.
That would be nice to see. But pretty much the offense wasn't the problem last year. You guys hit.
We did. The defense was a problem April,
Early.
May. We made improvements to that. I still think we can get better defensively. I saw Jacob Wilson really improve in September, which I was really happy about. Max Muncy will be the project to really improve his defense at third base and get him comfortable and confident over there, or second base. We also haven't talked about Zach Geloff, and this is a kid that really accomplished quite a lot in his first year in those 3 or 4 months. Had a difficult year, and then last year was really plagued with some injuries. So maybe there's a bounce back year in that kid, and he comes in
Love to
camp,
see that.
and yeah, it'd be great.
Because when you think of the athleticism, the size, the power, if he could get back to the guy that first came up, I mean, what that would mean to your lineup. But Nick Kurtz, he was so amazing. Like going into year 2, we talk about I don't think there's going to be a sophomore jinx. You look at year 2, like how do you prepare for year 2 with Nick Kurtz to just allow him to keep being great?
Yeah, I think Nick's got the right mindset. I mean, even when I said this on MLB, that that Nick has always been a player with high levels of expectation put on him, as not just an amateur, but even moving through our minor league system. Being a first round draft pick, always being looked at as the guy, getting to the big leagues pretty quickly. He's been able to deal with those levels of expectation pretty darn well. The biggest adjustments will be, the league making the adjustment on him, identifying his holes, but they still got to throw it there. And when they don't throw it there, it goes a long ways, as we saw kind of over the big tower in center
Does he
field.
really have weaknesses?
He does. There's some holes, definitely, but he'll clean those up. This kid works hard. He's very humble too, which I love about him, but he's got a presence about him that's really special. And it was really fun just watching him have the success he had, the accomplishments of winning Rookie of the Year. And let's not leave out Jacob Wilson as well,
Oh, yeah.
So, like you said, the core of our team is made up of those position players, but I really do believe there's some talent in this organization on the pitching side that can hopefully develop very quickly and lead to a lot of success.
There is a lot of talk, around here when you interview. We got a couple managers coming on after in our afternoon session, and everybody acts like, oh, yeah, we're in lockstep. You truly are in lockstep with David Forst. You guys have known each other for a long, long time. There's a lot of trust there. Just kind of take us through here at the winter meetings when talking to players, talking to agents, who you're going to, we talk about extending the contract offers to some of your players. You're also throwing contracts out there to players that are not yours right now. Talk about the relationship you have with David and the conversations that you two have, and talk about how guys would fit in your clubhouse.
Yeah, I mean, we talk daily. It's not really an off season. It's an off season, but it's not an off season. I mean, David and I, we talk every day, and we're always challenging each other, challenging the processes, and trying to just make improvements on a daily basis. And so those conversations, like you said, we're in lockstep, but there are things that we both are passionate about, and I think the relationship is solid. It's more than solid, like you said, and I'm just looking forward to winning with him.
Yeah. We need to win some games.
Yeah.
A lot of games. And a lot of people think this year could be an interesting year. When you get into those, it's interesting. Front office people do have to think different than the manager, because what are you thinking about? You're thinking about winning every day. They also have to think about the future. There's a lot of things that they have to think about. And those how interesting is that when how he has to do his business is a little bit different. But in the end, the buck stops with you on an everyday basis.
Well, it doesn't necessarily stop with me, but everyone has to manage up and manage down. And, in this environment, I think we do a good job of communicating that to each other and trying to communicate that to everyone in the organization. The one great thing about the A's organization is that it's loyal, and the continuity of the organization has always been there. You walk by and see Eric Kubota, who's being honored. I think he's Tony Gwynn, maybe the Lifetime Achievement Award here by Baseball America. Kubota's been in this organization for ever.
Yeah.
Right. Grady Fuson left, came back, but been here forever. Mickey Morabito, traveling secretary. So it's been fun. The relationships in this organization are very deep, and for David and I think the focus right now is putting the best team on the field and winning this division.
And getting ready for Vegas. You were there when we were all there for the Experience Center, which was absolutely amazing. And I get it. We're going to use that to sell suites and tickets and everything. But the one thing I was thinking about when we were in there and I was doing the show in there, I was like, this would really be a great place to bring potential free agents, to give them an idea of like, this is what it's going to look like, to put them in that cube, and this is the ballpark. Did you feel that way?
Not just the sales center, but I think the community of Vegas is a special place, and everyone thinks of Vegas because they've been there on the Strip and they've been to the casinos, and it's a tourism place. But the community's it's stronger than you know, and until you get in there and you put your feet on the ground. Rook and I went out and we handed out turkeys outside the Boys and Girls Club just outside of downtown, and you could just see the love, the passion for the community, the people of the community, the help, the support that they wanted to give, and so bringing free agents in, the biggest thing that I can tell a free agent is that you're going to get a pay raise because it's tax-free.
No state taxes.
Right. But at the same point, the stadium is going to be special. It really is. And, I don't think even the replica that we saw in that sales center, which was pretty awesome.
The model's
pretty awesome, yeah. Right? But when you look at this ballpark and the location of the ballpark on Tropicana and Las Vegas Boulevard, like it's going to be special.
Yeah.
So, the design of it, the whole landscape, the proximity of the fans to the field. I mean, you want to give me an earful, you're going to be able to give me an earful because you're only going to be about 10 feet from me on my right side if you're down low. So, the goal, again, let's get there. Let's win. And
win before we get there.
Yeah. And walk in there.
So what are you doing after this? What are you going to Disneyland? What's the plans here in Orlando for Mark Kotsay?
No, it's an in and out type trip. We got some more requirements this afternoon. And we'll be excited about our draft tonight. Odds are a little bit stacked against us, but hey, odds were stacked with us, and we ended up where we should have had a first pick to 6th, and then we probably were in line to be top 4, and we got 4, right? So now we're in line for like 8 or 10.
I know
maybe maybe the script flips.
That 6 and 4 worked out pretty well.
Pretty well.
I think if we redrafted, you think Kurtz would go number 1? Right?
Well said, Towny.
Right?
Well
if we
said. So
redrafted.
another tip of the cap to Kubota and to our scouting department, right? Billy O. I owe Billy O a kiss on the lips. I'm gonna find him, but Billy O told us last spring training that Nick Kurtz would be the best player on the team come August. And I said, Billy O, if he's the best player on our team come August, I will kiss you on the lips. I haven't seen him yet. He keeps hiding from me.
So, yeah, I've heard that story. You really didn't believe it.
No, I mean, we had Brent Rooker on the team. He's Silver Slugger, 30 homers. Like, come on, you're not going to be better than Brent Rooker.
This kid's amazing.
We could argue. I mean, Shea Langeliers he had a damn good year too.
And
like Tyler Soderstrom,
fantastic,
Gold Glove type defense, and never played left field before.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The thing, and to back up Shea and Cal Raleigh, I think what bugs me about the whole American League MVP is that people don't realize, whether it's Shea, it's Cal Raleigh, or whoever the catcher is, all the meetings that they have to do. They've got to know all the pitchers. There's so much they have to sacrifice for everybody else, let alone worry about their own game. And no one takes that. Like when you talk about Shea's year last year, we always look at offensively, but think of all the work that he has to do to help everybody else.
Let me lay the day out, right? Let's just call it, let's say we're on the road, okay? And we had a 6:40 game. Well, Shea gets there by 1 o'clock. There's a meeting with the pitching coach, myself, right, in my office from 1:15 to, let's call it 1:45, right? And that's all the information. We're going over the roster. We're going over who we want to target, who we want to get away from, who we don't want to let beat us, the running game, Okay, that meeting's done. So then he goes off and he probably preps, goes in the training room, gets his day, gets started. Then there's another meeting after BP, and that meeting is with the starting pitcher alone. So now he's got to go with the starting pitcher, and he's got to get that game plan. He's got to get that going. Then there's a bullpen meeting for our bullpen relievers, right? And how they line up with the team. And he's got that report to go over. Oh, and then by the way, like you got to go hit. You got to know their starter, what your game plan is going to be. That's Shea's day.
Yeah.
Right. And so, like you said, I mean, the demand on catching right now and the amount of information that's in the game and they're expected to know is incredible. And for them to go out and perform offensively, it's a bonus.
And I never thought about this, and it's a great point. I don't remember who brought it up. I'm stealing it for somebody. They are catching velocity that no catchers have ever seen before.
Ever.
And it's every pitch is the velocity. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. No, I know. Towny, I got to run.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Be well. I hope you win strongest manager. I hope that holds up.
It better hold up. Might have to come back.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays,
same.
I will be in touch as we need to get you a car, get you something, whatever I need to get you on A's Cast. I will sell it for you, Kotsay. The great Mark Kotsay right here on A's Cast Live as he now has to go meet with the beat writers.
Writer.
Beat
writer.
It sounds better if you just went along with it. Beat writers.
It was funny yesterday when we did it, when they were like, "Oh, we're taking them out to the suite to see the beat writers." Writer.
All right. So is Edwin Diaz has signed with the dot, just as I've been talking about. God, no one really had been talking about the Dodgers whatsoever. Right? No one been talking about the Dodgers, and all of a sudden here they get the top reliever as they're going to try and do the first three-peat since the Yankees did it in the late 90s into 2000. Only two franchises have ever three-peated. That's the Yankees and the Athletics. 72, 73, and 74. Should have done it in 88, 89, and 90. But think about their division. Padres are falling apart. Diamondbacks are looking to get rid of their best player. Rockies are a train wreck, and they've hired our old guy, Paul DePodesta, comes out of the NFL and the Cleveland Browns to get back into baseball. And then you have the Giants, who have been 81 and 81 2 straight years. And who knows what they're going to be like. And now the Dodgers continue just to get better.
Highest deal ever for AAV for a closer.
Do we know the numbers?
3 for 69.
3 for 69.
It's a lot of money.
How much is deferred?
Well, did they put that out? Is that in there? They put anything about deferred? That's what, $23 million a year. So
the richest owner in baseball, Steve Cohen, who's worth over $20 billion. Oh, our guy Scott Boras is walking by.
He did his huge media contingent. Oh, wait, David Schiff's here. He's right there.
Yeah, he's right there. Scott Boras, friend of the program. You know what I love? How Scott Boras has his own logo. An agent for his agency has his own logo.
Another guy walked by that we need to get on. Our guy Ryan Davis is here from the Mariners.
Yeah. So all these writers going to listen to Scott Boras.
By the way, we have one more interview before we leave. We still have the voter interview from yesterday to play.
Oh my God, it's noon.
Yeah. So we should end with Stephen Vogt.
I apologize to everybody. We're just talking. I'm having a good time and realize the show's over.
Well, we actually had something happen. That's why.
Yeah. Well, we had Kotsay come on. So we have Schwarber. This was a big deal for us because now hopefully we'll start to get some more movement. It always takes the big gun to go first. So Kyle Schwarber, 5 years, $150 million, going back to Philadelphia. So all that talk about, he's Boston and Baltimore and the Mets, that was all. He was going back to Philly all along. And then now you have Edwin Diaz, 3 years, 60 what?
$69 million.
Man.
So that's around what, 23 mil if you average it out.
Okay, we're gonna play Stephen Vogt. I promise you, we're gonna do Stephen Vogt next. But I thought it was ridiculous. I know a lot of you probably don't watch MLB Network year round. I do. I'm a baseball dork. It is what it is. The thing that bugged me. So after every single team was eliminated this year in the playoffs, so MLB Tonight comes on after the games, whether it was on TBS or whatever, FS1, they come on after the games, and they would immediately do what? They would start talking about the team that was just eliminated. And the answer always was retain all your guys and then go spend more. Well, of course, you have former players who are on there, and that's just always their philosophy is just keep adding, just keep adding. The New York Mets, with the richest owner who spent all this money, has just shown you what? That there is a limit and that he's tired of spending that money.
Yeah.
Like, even though because he went Devin Williams, 3 years, 51. And he saved some money there. I'd rather have Edwin Diaz than Devin Williams, but
David Stearns gets his guy back from Milwaukee.
You get rid of Nimmo, and that was like $120 million.
So you bring in Simeon.
And Simeon's contract will be up faster than Nimmo's, so they'll be able to get rid of that. Your first baseman, the Polar Bears, meeting with everybody else. They're looking to cut payroll. I mean, it just seems like everybody here is looking to cut payroll.
The other move, too, that happened, Rob Thompson, Phillies manager, extension through 2027.
Good for him.
As you know, the big news yesterday was us with the minor league deal for Michael Stefanik. Now that's going to be, I think Kyle Schwarber and Edwin Diaz have now trumped that news.
All right. We've held it long enough. Stephen Vogt, 2-time AL Manager of the Year. Yesterday, we were able to we taped him yesterday after the show because it was like right after Kurt Suzuki. But we went back-to-back interviews. It was pretty cool because obviously I covered Kurt Suzuki. I covered Stephen Vogt. I've known these men for years. And to see them leave the Athletics as players, have the success that they've had, and now to see Kurt Suzuki as a manager is super cool. And, of course, Stephen Vogt, who's salt of the earth. He's one of the greatest guys we've ever had in the organization. Here is Voter. Forget being in the bullpen in Oakland with the guy who was the bullpen coach for the Seattle Mariners, wondering, how's this coaching thing going to work out for you? And then now a couple of years later, Cody has to remind me it's not a former AL Manager of the Year. It's 2-time AL Manager of the Year. Stephen Vogt is with us here on A's Cast Live. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
How crazy has your life been?
It's been wild. This is it's a busy job.
Yeah.
A lot of travel, a lot of stress, you name it. But I absolutely love what I'm doing, and couldn't be more proud of what our guys accomplished this year.
And I think about, A's fans will always remember that special game, the last game, how great it was. And to think of where your kids were at that point and now where they are even older, getting to live this with you. So the family, your wife, the 3 kids, you can't write a better script.
No, we feel super blessed and fortunate. And, the city of Cleveland, the organization has welcomed our whole family.
Yeah.
And we love our time in Cleveland. The kids love spending their summers in Cleveland. And it really is our second home. And we couldn't be more blessed to be where we are.
I think about your training with the A's where, things don't always go perfect, when you're a player and through the good times when the team was winning, but you had to suck it up and it didn't matter and still got to go out there and win. Kind of the same what you got going in Cleveland.
Yeah, I think we play this game to win. That's why we play.
Yeah.
We go out every night to win, and it might look different. It might not look like the Dodgers, or it may not look like, but at the end of the day, we just need to win enough games to get in and give ourselves a shot. And we've been fortunate to do that 2 years in a row. And I don't take that lightly or take it for granted because it is extremely hard to win the 162-game marathon to get in. And our guys battled through a lot of adversity this year. They went through things that no one should have to go through, and I couldn't be more proud of their resilience.
Now, when you think back on the guys that you played for back when you were a player, the managers, do you now have a newfound respect because you know about the stress that they had to deal with every night that you maybe didn't deal with as a player?
Yeah, when you're a player, I think back, Bob Melvin was just so steady. Every day he was so steady. And
same guy every day.
Same guy every day. He and I had a very unique relationship, and so it was really special for me to get to spend 5 years with him. And I rely a lot on that experience in this job now. But when you're a player, when the game ends, you're upset if you lose, or it hurts. But you do an inventory of what you need to do the next day. Now I do an inventory of 26 players, 18 coaches, all the staff members. How did we do as a group, and what? So I don't sleep.
The front office guys are calling.
Yeah, you don't sleep in this job.
Yeah.
You sleep in the off season, and then there is no off season anymore. So
you're here in Orlando,
yeah,
Florida.
That's why I got more grays, a few more pounds. It's tough to keep them off.
How tough is that to deal with when you just say, I got to worry about the 26 guys, then I got the front office. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of. Did it take time for you to learn how to manage your time, to manage your thought process, because there's so much being thrown at you in a 24-hour schedule?
Yeah, I have about 18 notebooks in my life, right? And they're stashed all around the house, my office, everywhere, because when you get a thought or you need to remember something, I have to write it down so that I don't just glance over it. And, the thing about this job is every time you meet with someone, that 3 minutes is really important for them. And so it's really important for you, and you have to be locked in and fully engaged. So, we say all the cliches you want, be where your feet are, be present. You have to literally live moment to moment and be where your feet are, because if you glance over something, it could cost you big time down the road.
Yeah, and you still got to be a husband and a parent, and I know you're terrific at both those. I mean, so it's a lot of your time is spread out.
Yeah, my family takes the brunt of it, right? I mean, Alyssa is an absolute rock star. I don't know how she does it, how she puts up with this, and and I am. Whenever I can be a present father and husband, I do my absolute best to do that, whether that's FaceTime or this time of year when I get to be home, I try to be home as much as I can.
Yeah, your journey is special with her, meeting in college, and your guys both athletes, and of course she was a coach, so you guys totally understand that, and you're in this journey together. When I look at your team, Jose Ramirez, what is about him that makes him great that maybe you didn't know, but now you know because you're around it every day?
I didn't know how baseball IQ he is. This is one of the smartest baseball players I've ever seen. He's thinking of things that no players think about. He sees things that, and he is fully prepared for every game. He knows the opponent in and out. He knows the pitcher in and out. He knows when he can steal, when he can't. And you don't have to coach him. You coach him by reminding him how good he is. That's how you coach him, because he is a player coach. He leads by example. He holds his teammates to a high standard. And I feel so blessed. And the favorite part of my job is I get to watch Jose Ramirez play baseball every night.
Yeah, it's like he hasn't won the MVP, but every single year he's in the top three. And you start looking at the numbers, and you hope people realize that it was so cool, first of all, that he stayed there, right? He's like, you know what? Could I get more money somewhere else? But I want to be here, and I'm staying here. And I think for sure he's going to be a baseball Hall of Famer. You start looking at the numbers. I mean, he's one of the best switch hitters. I mean, the way he plays. I mean, this guy's as good as it gets.
Yeah, and every night it seems like he'll do something, and then after the game, one of the media people, hey, Jose Ramirez became the 8th person to do this.
Yeah,
you hear it almost every night. This guy is climbing up rankings, climbing up leaderboards. I mean, the only third baseman to ever have 250 steals and 250 homers, the first ever. The things that this guy's doing from both sides of the plate and defensively and base running. I mean, he is just such a special talent and a special teammate.
What in your managing, what didn't you know going in that you know now? Probably a lot of things.
There's a lot of things. I think I didn't realize the toll that it was going to take. You mentioned time management earlier. You wish you had 4 more hours in the day, because you can't get to everything every single day. You try. I try my best to get to everything every day, but you can't. And so you really have to plan your day. You have to plan out what is the highest leverage things today. And so you spend a lot of time thinking about how the cadence of your day is going to go. And then some gets thrown at you and you have to rip it up. And but you really have to focus on the 5 absolute necessary things you have to do every day, and then go from there.
Tony La Russa said he would make sure he made contact with every single player every single day. And I was like, God, you really do that?
Yeah.
Do you try and do something like that?
Yeah, I usually do, and it's harder on day games, but night games, I make sure that I speak with every player and try to speak with every single coach one-on-one. I'm walking around a lot, and also with the front office, also with the training staff, and you are leading a group, and you do it the best way I know, and that's to bring energy to everybody in the building and make sure that they know that I see value in what they're doing.
Well, I hope you know that every single time we're watching like MLB Network and they go to their highlights and they show you and they show Cleveland winning, that all of us sit back and we're so happy for you. I mean, you're a great person. It was covering you all those years, that you were always the same guy, and your family's wonderful, and we got to experience some great moments with you. And now we look from afar what you're doing. We're so happy for you. It's well deserved, and it's very special. And I hope you just keep doing this. And who knows where it's going to take you? I mean, the guy you replaced, we talk about all the time. He's going to be a Hall of Fame manager. Hell, we may be talking about you like that someday. But enjoy the ride, because it's everything you've gotten in. Everything you've gotten in this game, you've earned and you've deserved.
Well, I appreciate that, and I feel truly blessed. I mean, this game, I've loved this game from the time I came home from the hospital and my dad put a baseball bat in my crib. And I couldn't be more blessed at the things that this game has provided for myself, my family, the people that I've met, our time in Oakland. I mean, I still keep in touch with fans and coaches and people.
People love you.
And Oakland was such a special place for us. And I even got my Oakland green on today, You know what I mean? But I've been so blessed. I don't take one day for granted, and I'm going to keep working every day to help our players get better because I want people to learn faster than I did, and that's what I try to do.
Two-time AL Manager of the Year, Stephen Vogt, right here on A's Cast Live. So we've had Dan Otero, we've had Kurt Suzuki, we have had Stephen Vogt, ex-A's everywhere in Major League Baseball. They're all over Major League Baseball. We haven't seen Jed Lowry yet. I got to get my man Jed.
And Rajay Davis just walked by.
Rajay Davis is here. All these guys working for the league. It's amazing. There is something. It'd be interesting to talk to. We haven't talked to our good friend William Bean in a long time. Maybe we need to get Billy Bean on and go like, why is it that all these guys that
You're
were
his handler? You got to take care of that.
why are all these guys? I wish he was here. He doesn't come anymore. Why are all these guys that were in our organization now are filtered throughout baseball? I'm sure you can say that in a lot of organizations, but look how many guys we have that are working for the league.
Yeah, I mean,
ambassadors for the league.
Dan Otero's telling us what's happening coming up to the game, and changes.
Yeah, Dan Otero, I can't give the tip yet, but there's going to be a certain place he told me that we need to watch. And this league is going to have a lot of new rules in it, and that will be the future of what we're going to see where baseball is going. And I'm like, okay. He's like, don't say anything yet, but there is a certain league, and when announcements start to get done, we'll really dive into that league and go, okay, this is where we're going, because it's very smart how they do it. We think it's like, oh, they just want to try ABS. Let's put it in Major League Baseball. No, everything that they do, from the clock to the bags to everything that they do, they tested a ton in minor league baseball and in certain leagues. And it's going to be exciting. ABS is going to be exciting. Fans love it. Once you see it on a full-time basis, fans are going to love it. It brings a whole new aspect. It brings a whole, it's better than the challenge system in football. It's better. It's excitement, and it's quick. That's the thing. All these every single time an NFL coach takes out the flag, you're like, oh God, they're going to go. This is like immediate. Guy challenges, comes up on the board. You see it. The ball comes down. They show you whether it crosses the plate or not, striker ball, and it's over, and it's done within less than 10 seconds.
It's going to change the game.
And it's going to be super dramatic. Okay, this is it for the first show of the day. What do we have in the second half? Another jam-packed show.
We'll be back on at 11 a.m. Pacific. We're going to have our good friend and manager, former A of the Diamondbacks, Torey Lovello, will be here at 2 o'clock. We're going to have Don Kelly, the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, right after him. BK from MLB Network, our buddy. We're going to have Jim Duquette from Power Alley and former Major League general manager. His partner on MLB Network Radio, Mike Farron, and the manager of the Giants, Tony Vitello. And then we're hoping to get Joe Rudy, who's going to be our draft representative for the draft lottery.
Wow, this is a jam-packed show starting at 11 a.m.
11 a.m. Pacific, yep.
11 a.m. Pacific. All right, that'll do it for the first show of the day, day 3 of the Winter Meetings 2025 in Orlando, Florida. Everybody take a breather, take a break, and we got a jam-packed show for you starting at 11 a.m. We'll be back right here on A's Cast Live.
A's manager Mark Kotsay joined Towny on A's Cast Live to reflect on the seasons of Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson and their impact in 2025.
Well, he's really humble, and that's the first thing that stands out for me. He's just a kind young man that's quietly become a leader. He's obviously outperformed any level of expectation that we had. He's got 3 games left to continue to add on to an already, to me, pretty historic rookie season. So I'm privileged to be able to have an opportunity to manage him and be a part of this success.
Yeah, it's been he's going to be Rookie of the Year, another Rookie of the Year. A lot of rookie years in this franchise's history, and definitely one of the best rookie years of all time. Jacob Wilson finishing strong here at shortstop. What do you think first full season for Jacob? Obviously started the All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean, another kid that you can say very similar things about. He might not have the power, but the bat to ball skills are what separate him. And I've been so impressed with his maturity this season. A lot of guys, and what I was worried about in the course of a season, you're going to hit the wall, you're going to lose weight, you're going to get less physical. This young man has actually gotten stronger.